A few months have slipped by since Lu Sheng pulled off the impossible. He survived the Morningstar rejection and landed that psychic mentalist arrangement that changed everything. And with the rewards and income from that whole ordeal, our boy did what any good son would do. He bought his family a brand new home. The family settles into their new place called Yiga Manor, and for the first time in a long time things feel almost normal. His dad is now running his own martial arts training studio, and he wants to go introduce themselves to the neighbors. Lu Sheng offers to tag along, but his old man waves him off. He tells him to rest up because he needs to be sharp. Then, with that quiet pride only a father can carry, he adds that if Lu Sheng becomes the top martial arts scholar, he will have truly brought honor to the ancestors. But here is the thing. Tomorrow Lu Sheng is sitting for the national exam. He isn't just preparing for some exams. He has been deep in cultivation mode, and right now his internal power is sitting at the peak of rank 4. But he isn't just preparing for some exam. The breakthrough to rank 5 is right there within reach. He could push open that door at any moment. What is wild is that the energy running through his body, which was once mediocre ordinary stuff, has been completely transformed. It is dense and crackling and almost unrecognizable now. He is about to complete the 3rd round of refinement, and when that happens, his power multiplies several times over. The inner energy inside his body shifted from pale yellow to a golden amber glow, flowing through every part of him. His fist exploded with overwhelming power, blasting away a wave of lava, strong enough to clash head-on with the icy corpse puppet. This woman is a rank 9 terror, and she has been drilling Li Sheng every single day. Our boy has been eating every session for weeks. She was just like the previous times Lu Sheng had met her, cold and surrounded by a chilling aura. Without wasting a word, the two charged forward, creating blazing pillars of fire and ice as they clashed head-on. This time, Lu Sheng managed to withstand the attack and even fired back with a punch straight to the cold-hearted Princess Elsa's face. But one punch wasn't enough to take down this martial woman. She leaped straight toward our boy, then slammed a kick into Lu Sheng's stomach, creating a massive shockwave. Li Sheng has 4 special breathing techniques in his arsenal, and his breath of fire has climbed to rank 2. That means he is not just lobbing fireballs anymore. He can unleash a powerful burst of splash damage across a wide area. But this woman only smiled. Sharp ice spikes grew all over her body, forming a gigantic mass of ice meant to finish Lu Sheng off like every other time. But this time was different. Our boy weaved through the ice with ease, avoiding the danger completely. As the fight went on, Lu Sheng's exchange of moves with the martial woman kept increasing. He wasn't getting killed instantly anymore. Now he could survive her non-stop attacks for a full 5 minutes. Back then, he couldn't even last 2 seconds before dying. Now, lasting 5 minutes was already a huge improvement. He gathered his power into both palms, fire in one hand, lightning in the other. The cold smile on the corpse-like woman suddenly made Lu Sheng break out in sweat. If he still couldn't defeat her this time, then after the test was over, our boy would obtain the next techniques from the 3 level 11 grandmasters and come back for revenge. This time, he had his eyes on the crystal visualization technique and an astral body cultivation technique. And once he gets his hands on the next 3 major rank 5 martial arts and fully advances, he is coming for her. The more he fights the martial goddess, the more he respects and wants that level of power. The kind of strength she carries, the kind that turns condensed ice into absolute devastation. For now he has his own weapon, and it is something special. It is called the Eternal Blade Wheel, and it is a psychic weapon that set our boy back 2,700,000,000. That is not a typo. He personally harvested 27 kilograms of mithril ore from the mine at Chufao Mountain and poured every last gram into forging this thing. After it was done, he had a few million left to his name. Barely enough. No wonder psychic mentalists are considered rare even 10,000 years into the future, because every step forward costs a fortune. Lu Sheng thinks this career is a damned money black hole, but the weapon is absolutely worth it. And in the past few months, our hero has already mastered one of the Eternal Blade Wheel's rank 5 killer moves. The description in the technique manual is brutal in its simplicity. Just 5 words, capable of killing martial masters. If this move can take down a rank 6 martial master, that puts it on par with the most elite psychic combat abilities at rank 5, it is devastating. The kind of move that rewrites a fight instantly. But against the martial goddess, he can't even get within 3 feet of her. Hit her with the Eternal Blade Wheel, unleash the killer move at full force. Maybe he lands a real hit. But the moment his psychic energy depletes, she would cut him down before he could breathe, unless he shifts to his breath of wind and activates the immortal sparkling body technique. Defensive and untouchable, and buying time. As long as he doesn't hand himself over like a willing target, she can't finish him either. It is a standoff that neither side can fully break. The frustrating part is that Lu Sheng still has no real sparring partners outside of her. No one else who can push him to his limits. He genuinely doesn't know exactly how strong he has become because the only person who can test him is a rank 9 monster who keeps sending him into retreat. But tomorrow changes that. The national exams are his stage. Martial arts scholars of the city and of the province will all be there. And as Lu Sheng lies in the dark with his muscles coiled and his eyes calm, he lets himself think about it. He thinks that the exams are not his goal. His goal lies far beyond that. Walking into a room, he sees a young man with blazing energy in the middle of a fight. The guy is screaming at his opponent to die as golden light erupts from his fist. Nearby, a pair of observers notices the commotion. One of them is a heavyset man in a work uniform, and he is puzzled to see a kid hanging around the facility. But his colleague points out they can't decide where to send anyone without a master signing off. Both of them were completely shocked by what Lu Sheng had accomplished earlier. But the man in the blue uniform refused to believe it was real. He walked into the room with a killing intent strong enough to make people tremble. Yet he still wore a calm smile like nothing in the world bothered him. The supervisor was completely terrified by that killing intent. Soon after, the second trial began. First, a blazing flame aura erupted behind Lu Sheng. Then it slowly condensed into a golden glow. He bursts free with chi flooding his body and unleashes a devastating technique called Perfected Martial Arts First Form. He follows it up with something even more overwhelming. 20x Stellar Impact. The shockwave tears through the room and it feels like a bomb went off. It is a supercharged strike that sends his opponent crashing back in a blaze of fire and force. Lu Sheng lands cleanly and is calm as ever. He quietly wonders out loud just how strong he actually is right now. The city's evaluation chief, who is a smug man named Chief Lu, is already congratulating himself. They were playing chess together, and the man in the green shirt had just lost. Then the scene shifts to an older man named Chief Li, who shows up with something unexpected. A document. She explains that the special acupuncture needles required for a proper talent evaluation are nearly impossible to source. He was so shocked he nearly crushed the chess piece in his hand. The atmosphere in the room changes. Lu Sheng is pulled into a formal talent evaluation after all, and there is a hint that his backing runs deeper than anyone realized. A baron with high-level connections has vouched for him. The senior evaluator watches carefully with his arms shaking. After that, they start to congratulate to each others. Then the building starts to shake. Both of them are horrified. Someone asks if it is an earthquake, but it is not. The trembling is coming from one specific direction, which is the assessment zone itself. The evaluator's eyes go wide. Whatever power output is registering over there, it is completely off the charts. The source of the shaking becomes clear a moment later. The Combat Power Assessment Machine, which is a device built to measure even peak rank 6 martial artists, has been obliterated with a single punch. There is nothing left but smoke and rubble. The readout before the machine was destroyed clocked our hero at a combat power index of over 99,000. A senior official named Chairman Shu comes sprinting in, alarmed by the destruction. His subordinates are shaking and they can barely get the words out. They start stammering that he is a martial master. Lu Sheng stands in the settling dust completely unbothered. He is gently blowing on his knuckles. Exam day. The whole family gathers around the breakfast table, and for a moment it is almost warm and almost peaceful. Li Sheng's sister insists on tagging along to the exam venue. His dad once sat this same test and got knocked out in the early rounds due to talent, so he doesn't say much. He just tells Lu Sheng to give it his all. Our boy nods and tells his dad he got it. They ride together to the venue. When they arrive, his dad leans out the car window and calls after him. He says whether Lu Sheng becomes a top scholar or not, the family is proud. Lu Sheng lets his perception sweep out quietly around him as he moves through the crowd, reading the atmosphere. He thinks this is a different kind of battlefield, but a battlefield all the same. His sister starts shouting that she is coming too, but his dad cuts her off with a laugh. The exam hall is massive. Thousands of examinees are funneling in by registration number. The structure is split, with Hall 1 handling the vitality assessment and Hall 2 handling the combat power index. When his number group is called, Lu Sheng steps forward. Before he even reaches the assessment line, a gap opens up around him. The other examinees, without knowing why, start drifting back and clustering together. They leave a wide, empty ring of space around our boy. One of them stammers that they feel inexplicably nervous. Their body just won't move forward and their legs are trembling. The supervising instructor stares at the scene, confused at first and then alarmed. He figures it out fast. This is martial pressure, which is an aura that naturally radiates from a martial artist when their internal vitality reaches a sufficiently extreme level of intensity. It is not something you consciously activate, it just leaks out because once the energy reaches that level, it can't be contained. For ordinary people who step into that field, every instinct screams at them that there is a ferocious beast ahead, and they need to back away and get to safety. Their body's self-preservation mechanism fires before the brain even processes the threat. The instructor watches the crowd scatter around one completely calm teenager. He starts wondering just what kind of monster this kid is. The chaos gets sorted quickly. The instructor points Li Sheng toward the assessment room first and tells him to get his vitality tested. He says Li Sheng should go in alone and everyone else should wait. The crowd parts without argument. Lu Sheng shrugs and walks in. Outside, a different kind of drama is playing out. A would-be examinee is getting dragged off because apparently the kid drank some special chicken soup his uncle brewed and got flagged for performance-enhancing substances. He starts screaming that it wasn't cheating and that he didn't know and that this is unfair. The officials aren't having it. His right to sit the national exams is revoked for the next 3 years. The message is clear: cheating is prohibited and there are no exceptions. Then it is Lu Sheng's turn for the full assessment. He walks into the room and even the rank 8 instructors stationed there, who have been doing this for years and have seen prodigies come and go, instinctively take a step back the moment he enters. They catch themselves and feel embarrassed and hold their ground. First up is the vitality assessment via blood draw. Standard procedure. The examiner reaches for a needle. Li Sheng doesn't say a word, but internally he already knows his body has been completely tempered. That needle won't go through his skin. Sure enough, the examiner can't get it done. He calls for a different set of needles. These are top-grade blood sampling tools designed specifically for high-level martial artists. Li Sheng looks at the tray and grabs the whole thing at once. He says they should just do it all at once. The examiner stares. The needle bends. The instructor watching mutters that this is insane and starts wondering just how dense this kid's body is. They exchange a look and decide to pivot. They figure they should forget the vitality draw for now and go assess his combat power index first and come back to this later. Our boy says all right and follows them out completely unbothered. Behind him, the room is still trying to process what just walked through their door. The dust has barely settled, but Chairman Su moves fast. He clears the room immediately. No outsiders and no witnesses. Then he dispatches staff directly to the Martial Association to arrange for a higher-level assessment to be brought in at once. Whatever just happened here is too big to handle through normal channels. Standing in the middle of it all, Lu Sheng radiates something that stops the chairman cold. Just being in the presence of a martial artist tempered across 1,000 battles carries a weight and a pressure that is unlike anything a normal 18-year-old should have. Chairman Su is quietly stunned. He tells Lu Sheng not to worry and that no one will be blamed for the destroyed equipment. He asks him simply to do the assessment one more time. 1 hour later, the high-level assessment apparatus arrives. The vitality evaluation comes first. A single drop of Lu Sheng's blood hits the testing needle and it doesn't disperse. It condenses. The examiner has seen martial master blood before, and this isn't quite there. But considering our boy's age, the density and conversion rate are already astonishing. The numbers come in. Vitality value 1233.56, martial artist rank 5. Rating 188, a vitality of over 1,200 in all of Bima City is unprecedented. The room goes silent. The examiner starts stammering that not even in the entire history of the national examinations across Dongxing province have results like this ever been recorded. Lu Sheng has just set a new provincial record. Our hero's response is a casual shrug. He says it is all right, he guesses. The examiner nearly chokes hearing that. Next comes the combat power assessment. A martial master-level device is brought in and it is one of only a handful in the entire country. Chairman Su explains that this machine can assess a genuine martial master's combat index. He says it is being used on a young man today for the first time. Lu Sheng steps up and channels his chi. 20x stellar impact. 10 suns in the same sky. Even with that much power, he only managed to leave a small dent in the machine. The machine registers the output and the number locks in. Combat Power Index 1,260,000. The examiners exchange glances. His Combat Power Index has already far exceeded the requirements for a martial master. But there is one problem. Someone points it out directly and asks why Lu Sheng has the strength of a martial master but isn't using vital chi. Lu Sheng answers honestly. He says he is only 18, so his vital qi simply hasn't developed yet. The room erupts. No vital qi and he is already at this level. Chairman Shu and Chief Li can barely contain themselves. Chief Li is openly delighted and starts laughing. He says Baime City is going to produce a true dragon. A genuine once-in-a-generation figure. Outside, Lu Sheng's father and sister are waiting anxiously. When he walks out, they swarm him and start asking how it went. His father's eyes search his face. Lu Sheng keeps it understated and says a little better than expected. He says getting into the top military academy in the capital won't be a problem. His sister loses her mind with joy when she hears that. Later, Lu Sheng reflects quietly. He pulls up a mental summary of everything logged so far. A life record that already reads like something out of a legend in the making. But in his own mind, the real milestone is simpler. He has finally in this life become a rank 8 Grandmaster. And with a level 4 perms, which is the stellar body refining art covering every stage of training from level 4 all the way up, he now has a direct road to Martial Master. The volume also provides the full cultivation framework for the immortal golden body. There is one more special technique inside as well, and Lu Sheng is quietly relieved that Shi Shengning has already passed on so there won't be any awkward overlap. He begins to think about the martial master paths laid out before him. The path of Shi Shangning who created 10 suns in the same sky, and the path of the one who will be known as the Eastern Evil Sun 10,000 years from now. Both are extraordinary and both are proven, but neither is his. Those are their paths and not his. The martial master path Lu Sheng wants to forge should be one that even Wang He, who is the greatest figure he has knowledge of, could never walk. His target isn't rank 10, it isn't even rank 11. His initial goal is rank 12 or higher. He has 3 rank 11 martial arts as his foundation. He has 10,000 years of civilization's accumulated knowledge lighting the way. Our boy thinks this is not wishful thinking, and it is not an overestimation of his abilities. He raises his fist toward the sky over the city. He tells himself that will be his future. 5 days after the national exams, the Liu family's neighborhood is buzzing with energy. Lanterns are going up and firecrackers are popping nearby, and there is that unmistakable feel of good news in the air. But not everyone is in a celebratory mood. The neighbor next door is a sharp-tongued, status-obsessed woman who has been simmering with irritation ever since the Liu family moved in. She complains loudly about their appearances and their noise, and especially an incident where someone dropped a basket of oranges that blocked her car. Her husband tries to calm her down, but she is not having it. Then a car pulls up outside. The license plate reads Eastern D0001, the provincial governor's car. The woman's jaw hits the floor. Word ripples through the neighborhood instantly. The governor of Dongning province has personally come to congratulate someone, and that someone is the Dragon Martial Scholar. This year's Dragon Martial Scholar is from their neighborhood, the same family the woman just finished insulting. She goes pale and then completely falls apart. Inside, Lu Sheng is deep in meditation. He is refining his meridians and marrow, and his physique is steadily growing stronger now that he is training through the second volume of the Immortal Golden Body. His sister Qinghe is blowing up his phone. She tells him he is #1 in the country and that he is the dragon. She says there are people at their house and that the governor is here and a grandmaster is here too. She asks why he isn't up yet. Our boy extends his perception outward and reads the room before he even gets there. One aura he identifies immediately as Chairman Xiao. Beside him there is another presence at roughly the same vitality level, which is likely a rank 8 quasi-martial master. But the third aura is something else entirely. The guy's vitality burns like an oven and makes even the rank 8 powerhouse feel insignificant next to him. That is a Grandmaster. The Grandmaster also realized what happened by a laugh. Lu Sheng descends the stairs calmly and apologizes for keeping everyone waiting. The guests are visibly impressed because carrying such a powerful, seasoned aura at his age is something else. One of them says it is hard not to feel like the youth are overtaking the old. His father makes the introductions. Xie Pingnan is the governor of Dongning province and holds the Martial Master rank. The mayor of Baime City is also present, and Lu Sheng already knows him through Chairman Xiao. Governor Xia gets straight to it. He says the performance rankings are already tabulated, and Lu Sheng placing first is essentially confirmed even before cultural scores and bonus points are added in. Once everything is tallied, it is expected to be the best national exam result in history. The governor didn't want to wait. He came in person as soon as he received the news. Then come the gifts. First is a cash reward of 50 million, which is a token of appreciation from Dongning province. then a residence of over 400 square meters in the capital of Dongning Province. It is centrally located and surrounded by professional martial arts facilities, ideal for a rank 8 martial artist to train and live. And finally, the governor spreads out 7 envelopes on the table. 7 recommendation letters, all 7 St. Martial universities. St. Martial University is the dream of every martial artist in the country, and Lu Sheng can choose any one of them. His sister nearly combusts when she sees them. The governor says he won't be biased and won't nudge because the choice is entirely Lu Sheng's. Without hesitating long, our hero picks one, the 7th St. Martial University. The governor is mildly surprised because he expected more deliberation. He notes that while the 7th isn't lacking in faculty quality compared to the other 6, the student body, there is considerably more dangerous. Then he adds something more personal. He says once Lu Sheng has chosen the cold weapon he wishes to master, he should call any time. He says he will personally select a rank 6 or below cold weapon as a congratulatory gift for the Dragon Martial Scholar. A rank 6 cold weapon from a provincial governor is not cheap by any measure, but it would be rude to refuse a martial master's goodwill. Lu Sheng thanks him genuinely. Governor Shai takes his leave beaming. He says he was simply proud that a dragon had emerged from Dongning Province and wanted to meet him personally. The family waves them off. The moment the motorcade disappears down the road, Lu Sheng's father erupts with laughter. He starts yelling about glory to the Lu family. He immediately orders Lu Sheng's mother to go buy ingredients because tonight they feast. But in the shadows of another location entirely, someone is looking at an exam candidate file. The name on the paper is Lu Sheng. The figure studies it quietly. He thinks it is interesting. A companion remarks that it is rare for something to pique this person's interest. The figure is identified as Tan Zhongyu, the Mingyu martial saint. He sets the file down and begins to think that things will be a little different this year. A few days after the national exams conclude, Lu Sheng says his goodbyes to his classmates and then to his family. He boards a plane heading for the capital. A new journey begins. On the flight, Lu Sheng turns his thoughts to where he is going. What makes the 7 St. Martial universities extraordinary isn't just prestige. Each one possesses a complete set of legacy martial arts, and every campus is home to the one and only Martial Saint Tower in the Dragon Country. The 7th St. Martial University, which is the one Lu Sheng has chosen, was established 57 years ago and was founded by Tan Zhongyu. Tan Zhongyu is one of only 3 currently living martial saints in the nation. He reached martial saint in just over 60 years and is now slightly past 100 years old. That alone says something, because a strong martial saint's lifespan can barely exceed 300 years, putting them beyond ordinary human classification entirely. Across the entire history of the Dragon Country, only 9 martial saints have ever existed. Unfortunately, more than 100 martial saints died on battlefields fighting monsters or were lost in wars against other countries. After so many sacrifices, both sides lost several martial saints along with their techniques and lineages. Our boy thinks the result isn't even worth discussing. The Martial Saint Tower built in the Dragon Country after the war is something else. Based on the challenge levels of different states in different periods, it perfectly represents the peak of martial arts and technology in the country. Those who enter the tower can challenge it at various difficulties, and clearing enough levels earns the opportunity to meet a martial saint. You could potentially even be accepted as their disciple. Lu Sheng is unbothered by that particular carrot. He has more legacy knowledge left from his 10,000 years of cultivation than any single martial saint could ever provide. What he does need, however, is credits, specifically the credits required to access the Martial Saint Tower. The coursework alone isn't going to cut it. He figures he will need to complete credit assignments and rack up enough points as fast as possible. He thinks he can do it in less than a year. His mental planning is interrupted by a voice beside him. A girl with long dark hair is smiling at him and says what a coincidence that she is also flying to the capital today. Back home, Lu Sheng's sister Qinghe has already been messaging her, and apparently she is convinced this girl is future sister-in-law material. Lu Sheng stares at her for a moment and wonders why she is here. 2 hours later, the plane lands. The capital is as grand and overwhelming as expected. Lu Sheng notes inwardly that even the majestic base in the ocean he once knew probably looked something like this. His first stop is Jinghe University, which is a second-tier school, but not a bad one. The girl is enrolling here, and she walks with Lu Sheng toward registration. On the way through campus, a blonde upperclassman immediately spots her and starts loudly declaring she is his. Lu Sheng doesn't even blink. Another upperclassman offers to help carry her luggage. She declines them both politely and thanks Lu Sheng instead. The blonde upperclassman spins around furious and then freezes when he realizes Lu Sheng is also a new student. During the walk, our hero has been quietly training. He has been using the time to practice suppressing his vitality aura so it reads as completely ordinary. He has got it down well enough now that someone standing next to him would never guess what he is carrying. The Jingha upperclassmen give him an unsolicited orientation. They say Jingha might be second tier, but it has solid training facilities and it sits right next to Martial Artist Street. There is even access to the Martial Saint Tower, though the process is more troublesome for non-Saint Martial students. They explain that St. Martial University students can enter the tower anytime and anywhere without needing to apply separately. Then comes the warning, and it is delivered with complete seriousness. They tell Lu Sheng to never provoke anyone from the 7th St. Martial University. He raises an eyebrow and asks why. They explain that the moment those students enroll, they are already assigned monster-related missions. From day one of their freshman year, they have seen blood. Every single one of them trains under constant life-or-death pressure, and their strength is terrifyingly high to match. One of them says picking a fight with a 7th student is a fast track to getting crippled for life. Lu Sheng absorbs this with a nod. They reach the Jingha registration building. The girl gives Lu Sheng her number and tells him to call any time. The blonde upperclassman watches the whole exchange with his mouth hanging open. When she is gone, he demands to know which school this quiet, unsettling new student is going to. The girl answers for him over her shoulder. She says the 7th St. Martial University. The upperclassmen go rigid. Then she adds that he is from Bame City and his name is Lu Sheng. A beat of silence. Then the name registers and they start stammering. They realize this is Lu Sheng, this year's Dragon Martial Scholar. The chapter ends with our boy walking away into the sunlight completely unbothered. His eyes are already fixed on what is ahead. Lu Sheng arrives at the gates of the 7th St. Martial University. The campus is enormous and exactly what you would expect from one of the top institutions in the country. It has a majestic atmosphere that hits you the moment you step through the entrance. Lu Sheng takes it in quietly. He didn't come here just to broaden his horizons. He came because a martial artist needs mountains to climb and rivals to chase. He thinks even if it is only to expand his perspective, coming here will not be in vain. He heads to the freshman reception area and hands over his notification letter. The girl behind the desk barely glances up and then does a double take. She realizes this is the year's Dragon Martial Scholar, the first Dragon Martial Scholar the 7th has ever produced. She also notices he is apparently quite easy on the eyes. She pauses and is visibly flustered. Before anything can develop from that, a senior student comes crashing through the moment. He charges in with a drawn sword and his eyes are locked on Lu Sheng. He asks if he is that Lu Sheng. Our boy confirms it without blinking. The senior swings, but the blade stopped right above Lu Sheng's shoulder. Because he realized the sword carried no killing intent, so he didn't bother blocking it. The senior tells him to head straight in that direction because the dorms are that way. He points toward the dormitory signs with the look of a man who has just been thoroughly embarrassed. Lu Sheng thanks him and walks off. Behind him, the reception staff is quietly losing their minds. They say his vitality alone is already reading at rank 8, and rumor has it he is probably already at quasi-martial master level. Someone says he may well be the strongest Dragon Martial Scholar in history. One of the seniors mutters that they will be in for a show later. The campus is indeed massive. It is quiet and almost too quiet in a way that makes it feel slightly eerie. Lu Sheng is still navigating when a round-faced energetic freshman named Lin Zhe catches up to him and immediately latches on. Lin Zhe has been wandering lost for ages and still can't find the dorms. Lu Sheng knows where they are, so they head there together. At the dormitory entrance, a crowd has gathered around something ugly. A senior is standing over a freshman who just took 2 hits from him and is still somehow on his feet. The freshman is Xu Xiaoming, and he is this year's martial scholar from Kaijiang province. The senior calls it impressive and tells him to keep working hard. He says a few more moves and he can move in. Nearby, another student named Huo Dong is watching from the side. He is ranked 11th nationally and 2nd in the capital. Someone asks if he is confident he could take the senior on. Huo Dong is honest and says, not really. He has only just advanced to rank 8. That senior is a peak rank 8 who has probably already reached intermediate attainment in Vital Qi. Huo Dong figures against someone like that, he would fold in 3 moves. The senior is enjoying himself. He turns to address the gathered freshmen directly. He says this is his philosophy lesson, and it is delivered as their very first welcome to the 7th. He tells them that those without ability will live and die as ordinary humans. Those with talent can scrape by as decent, forgettable creatures. But here their rankings mean nothing, and their accolades mean nothing, and the pride they carried from home means nothing. He says the only currency that matters is strength. Everything else gets burned away. Lin Zhe is standing next to Lu Sheng, and he is practically vibrating with excitement. He thinks this is the most incredible thing he has ever seen. Our hero's face says otherwise. The senior turns his gaze to the newcomers and tells Lindsay to try withstanding 3 or 5 moves. Lindsay starts to object and then accidentally reveals he is this year's Sichuan Province martial scholar ranked 19th nationally. The senior immediately loses interest in the philosophy lecture and raises his fist. He gets one move off. Lu Sheng flicks him away with a single strike and doesn't even adjust his posture. The crowd goes dead silent. The senior coughs on the ground and stares up. He mutters that he was careless and that he didn't expect someone with actual vital chi to be standing right there. Lu Sheng looks down at him and asks if he is alright. Lindsay is absolutely losing it with joy beside him. Lu Sheng turns it over in his head for a moment. He figures he probably should have stepped in sooner, but the conclusion he reaches is simple. He thinks that if something is troubling him, he should just resolve it himself. If something too loud gets in the way, he should just smack it away. He picks up his luggage and heads inside. Lu Sheng stepped up right in front of the senior, but the senior couldn't help wondering why Lu Sheng was still wearing his backpack. Was he really planning to fight like that? Our hero noticed it and casually dropped the bag to the ground, leaving everyone speechless. But soon after, the crowd started getting noisy, thinking Lu Sheng had just offended the senior. He unleashes a massive burst of chi with golden flames roaring. The crowd starts backing away in shock. The attack came flying straight at Lu Sheng's face, and he finally moved. Our boy knocked the strike away in an instant, then blitzed right in front of the senior at insane speed, grabbed him by the throat, and slammed him into the ground with so much force that the floor caved in. The peak rank 8 martial artist with vital chi is taken down in a single blow. The crowd goes silent. Someone mutters that vital chi is apparently something you can control with your bare hands. The senior hits the ground furious and humiliated. He stared straight at the next senior with an overwhelming killing intent and asked if he can go. The senior tells him sure. He calmly walked into the dorms, and while getting his room card, he casually grabbed room 17 for his fat friend too. Lu Sheng then flicked the card straight at the senior and told him to get in. Lu Sheng and Lindsay get their room keys for room 17 and head inside. The long-haired senior who was running the whole hazing operation watches them go and says nothing. It seems like he has decided not to bother with this one. A message goes out quietly to someone nearby saying there is an incredible newcomer this year. The dormitory block turns out to be far better than either of them expected. Lu Sheng discovers he has been given an entire private block to himself. It is a Dragon Martial Scholar perk, and everything inside is provided free of charge. Lindsay gapes at the place. He starts asking if Lu Sheng is really Lu Sheng. Our hero confirms it without ceremony. Lindsay's jaw drops. He says he had already suspected something was off when they first met, but he just couldn't picture it. Lindsay opens up as they settle in. He says he was proud to be a provincial martial scholar from his home, but then he got here and realized how many terrifyingly strong people exist at this level. He says he had assumed the strongest one would be at the first St. Martial University. He never expected that person to also show up at the 7th. Lu Sheng finds this puzzling and wonders why the strongest one would specifically come here. Lindsay explains that his family told him the previous Dragon Martial Scholars all went to the first St. Martial University. He looked up the records himself, and the 7th St. Martial University is consistently at the bottom of the National College Martial Arts rankings. Coming here as Dragon Martial Scholar looks like a deliberate downgrade on paper. Still, he quickly wraps it up and exchanges numbers with Lu Sheng and promises to talk later and heads to his own room. Lu Sheng settles into his private quarters. The room is well furnished and even stocked with monster hides. He pulls up a live stream to kill time while he figures out his student ID registration. He stumbles onto a video titled, "First Ranked Freshman Must Watch Online," and it has over 14 million views. The comments speculate that there are only 2 people in the entire country who could actually deal with the 7 St. Martial students. Lu Sheng watches the 15-second preview, which ends with a paywall prompt. He closes it. He thinks streaming sites are all the same everywhere. Since he still can't get his student ID sorted, Lu Sheng decides to use the time productively. The small balcony looks good for training. He brought 30 portions of a key circulation elixir he refined before leaving home, and that is enough for a month's worth of foundation entry practice. He starts circulating the energy through his body with ki crackling around him in controlled bursts. Then someone starts banging on his door. Lu Sheng doesn't stop. The banging continues. He finishes the circulation and walks over and opens it. A broad-shouldered upperclassman is standing there. He demands to know who did this. Lu Sheng looks at him and says it was him. Lu Sheng didn't say a single word. He instantly activated the ice key he learned from the Frost Queen Elsa and kicked the guy right in front of him. This senior got blasted straight into the wall, and judging by the impact, that definitely wasn't a light injury. The other 2 could only laugh awkwardly, but Lu Sheng was already pissed off. The upperclassmen who came to intimidate Lu Sheng are now picking themselves up off the floor and cursing under their breath. Turns out, they were only there to deliver Lu Sheng's student ID. They explained that with this ID, our boy could access any training facility in the academy, and every month he would receive a portion of rank 4 otherworldly blood to boost his strength. The upperclassman is stunned because he wasn't even this badly injured fighting a rank 8 monster on a mission. But they can't just let this slide. After that, he released a terrifying killing intent to drive them away. They let out a sigh of relief when he finally went inside. But they couldn't just let this slide. They planned to bring someone stronger to teach Lu Sheng a lesson. But then the door slowly creaked open again, revealing our hero's cold, dark gaze as he asked why they were still standing there. They scatter instantly and start scrambling to call the school affairs office about the damaged door. Lu Sheng watches them go completely unbothered. He notes to himself that the benefits the 7th provides are genuinely impressive. A rank 4 otherworldly blood supplement every month, and full equipment and amenities and an all-access card included. But he has no illusions about why they are really here. This is just another group of students trying to establish dominance over newcomers. Strong students, sure, but the motivation is transparent. He sits down and uses the all-access card to finally pull up those videos he couldn't access before. He settles in to watch. What he sees on screen stops him cold. It is a swordsmanship sparring session, and the narrator identifies one of them as Xiao Lan, who is currently number 1 at the 7th St. Martial University. The two of them represent the best martial talents in the Dongnan province. Lu Sheng watches the exchange intently. The output is extraordinary. His internal assessment is quick and precise. He figures without the will of a martial master he would need to use 350% of his strength to beat either of them. At 160% strength, both would break the 1 million combat power threshold. These two aren't at martial master level yet, but they are already carrying combat power that rivals 1. Our boy reminds himself this is just the 7th St. Martial University. There are still many geniuses in the world. He thinks he needs to work harder. Then he notices that someone caught the incident at the dorms on camera. He realized it was the battle from earlier that morning. He closes the video because he is hungry. Lu Sheng heads to the campus cafeteria. At the same time, Lin Zhe also arrived at the cafeteria and spotted Lu Sheng. The senior was completely shocked by the amount of food. There was even more than his own. The food is excellent, and Lin Zhe absolutely demolishes his tray. He explains that he would normally hold back on eating to keep his body lean for martial arts practice, but this meal is too good to waste. Lu Sheng stares at him flatly. Word has already spread. Across the cafeteria, students are pointing and whispering. They say that is the strongest freshman and that he is actually quite handsome. They say he looks refined but fights like an animal. Someone says they heard Shi Lun was beaten up by a freshman and that the guy is already almost rank 8. One girl catches herself saying out loud she would like to test how strong she is against him too, and then immediately backtracks. Then someone approaches the table, Wu Fan. This year's number 2 in Yunxi province and ranked 17th nationally. He introduces himself smoothly and says he just wants to get acquainted. Lu Sheng gives him a flat look. Wu Fan doesn't blink. He acknowledges directly that he knows Lu Sheng is far stronger than him. But he says they aren't in high school anymore, and social connection matters, since he knows he can't match Lu Sheng in a fight. He came to talk instead. Our hero cuts him off before he can finish the pitch. He asks, since Wu Fan already knows he is no match for him, why did he still come here to provoke him? Lu Sheng continues and says, some people know there are things they can't do, and they still insult you to your face anyway. Wu Fan freezes. Before he can respond, Lu Sheng grabs him and sends him flying across the cafeteria in one clean motion. This time, Lu Sheng grabbed him by the face and slammed him into the ground just like he did earlier that morning. Wu Fan crashes down hard. His expression cycles through shock and then recognition. He realizes the scene looks familiar. Then it clicks. It was in that video. Lu Sheng is already standing over him. He tells Wu Fan he already said not to provoke him. The cafeteria watches in stunned silence. Lin Zhe pumps his fist. Onlookers start grabbing their phones. Someone whispers that our boy is a monster. The demonic monster in the flesh. Lu Sheng looks down at the mess in the cafeteria and states his 2 rules plainly. Number 1 is don't disturb him while he is cultivating. Number 2 is don't be a fly while he is eating. He tells the crowd to remember those 2 things and nobody needs to get hurt. Everyone nods frantically. He tells Lindsay it is time to go and reminds someone to make Wu Fan pay for the broken table when he wakes up. Lindsay trails after him, buzzing with admiration. As they walk, Lu Sheng turns the situation over in his head. He thinks the path of martial arts is a struggle for supremacy, and the 7th St. Martial University is exactly the kind of place where the best talents in the country congregate. He figures stubborn fools like the ones he just dealt with will never stop coming. There will always be more flies. He thinks the real issue isn't their attitude, it is that they simply aren't scared enough yet. He asks himself if a martial master were standing in front of them, would they act this way? They wouldn't. So the solution is clear. Make them scared enough and the flies disappear on their own. He just needs to find the right opportunity. That opportunity comes faster than expected. A man approaches him directly. It is the vice principal of the 7th St. Martial University. His aura is immediately noticeable and very strong. The vice principal gets straight to the point. He tells Lu Sheng that tomorrow at the entrance ceremony he will take the stage to speak as a representative of the new freshmen. Lin Zhe is beside himself with excitement. Our boy agrees with a calm smile and says he will have to do his best. The next day, the auditorium fills with the entire incoming freshman class of the 7th St. Martial University's 57th cohort. In the stands, word has already spread. Huo Dong is here, and Xu Jianfei, who ranked in the national top 20, is here too. Apparently, Lu Sheng is going to speak on behalf of the freshmen. Huo Dong watches from his seat with quiet focus. His martial arts intuition is already telling him one thing: stay as far away from that person as possible. The ceremony begins. The vice principal welcomes the new students. The speech is standard with the usual talk about golden season and many students and all leaders starting the same way. Lu Sheng tunes it out almost immediately. Then his name is called. The dragon martial scholar is invited to say a few words on behalf of the freshman class. A man with a weird spiky hairstyle provoked Lu Sheng, making him pissed off. The room goes quiet instantly. He introduces himself and says he is Lu Sheng. He looks out across the auditorium at hundreds of students, many of whom have already heard about or watched footage of what he did yesterday. He tells them he knows many of them are dissatisfied with him. Then he says he will give them all a chance today, right now and immediately. He tells them to challenge him. Anyone confident enough to beat him can come at him right now. The room buzzes with stunned energy. Our hero tells them he specially allows all of them to come at him together. He calls them flies and tells them not to keep him waiting. The vice principal standing behind him can't process what he is hearing. The guy's brain simply stops working. The auditorium explodes. Lin Zi is beside himself. He can't believe that is the speech Lu Sheng spent a whole day preparing. Lu Sheng called everyone their trash and said not a single one of them dared to challenge him. Hearing that, none of them could hold back anymore. They said our boy was getting way too arrogant, and as upperclassmen they had to teach him a lesson. The first to stand up is Xu Jiandong. He declares he will take Lu Sheng on personally. A curvy girl nearby also said she wanted to see what Lu Sheng could teach her. Meanwhile, Huodong was still wary of our hero's strength. Deep down, he kept reminding himself that this guy was a monster. But for the sake of his pride and reputation, he still stepped up to challenge Lu Sheng. With that, everyone in the room started getting ready for the fight. Everything fell into silence. Yu Jiandong was the first to break the tension, launching a fierce tiger-like punch straight at Lu Sheng. A senior starts to intervene, but the vice principal figure beside him holds up a hand. He tells him to calm down and wait and see. He watches with quiet interest. His read on the situation is sharp. He figures Lu Sheng won't be able to actually kill anyone in here, so he won't be able to go all out. He thinks no matter how strong Lu Sheng is, he can't seriously injure that many people at once. When enough trash piles up, even a tiny bit of pressure adds up. He is curious to see what happens. Our boy looks out at the crowd rising against him. He asks what gives a bunch of trash like them the right to sit with him. A freezing aura started spreading through the air as Lu Sheng gathered power into his fist and threw a head-on punch at Jiandong, sending him flying with overwhelming force. Another guy rushed at Lu Sheng with a flying kick, but our boy casually blocked it with one hand. Then he slammed the guy straight into the floor. The next challenger rushes in with flames blazing. The guy starts laughing and says no matter how strong Lu Sheng is, he won't be able to withstand fire at this range. He is right about one thing. Lu Sheng's vital chi isn't providing full protection and his clothes get scorched, but he doesn't stop moving. A fourth challenger comes in fast and technical. She switches to Breath of the Wind, trying to chip away at him with speed instead of power. She lands something, a hit. She gasps because she thinks she actually got him down. She actually beat Lu Sheng. Our hero looks up from the ground. He asks who gave her the permission to tickle him. She stumbles backward because he is already back on his feet. The crowd starts screaming that he is a psychic mentalist on top of everything else. The shout goes up for everyone to get him at once. The full wave crashes in. When the dust settles, Lu Sheng is standing. Everyone else is on the floor. He looks at the wreckage around him. He says trash is trash. Even if it piles up, it is still trash. Everyone was completely shocked to find out that Lu Sheng was also a psychic mentalist. He used the same move as the last senior just to intimidate them, but that alone was more than enough. As more and more people got taken down, everyone finally teamed up and surrounded Lu Sheng all at once. But with just a glowing golden aura in his palm and killing intent in his eyes, one casual wave of his hand erased everything like it was nothing. Lu Sheng stood there proudly, like a god looking down on everyone. He tells them he had too high expectations of them. The vice principal stares at the auditorium. Hundreds of freshmen are down and one student is standing. The guy short-circuits completely. Somewhere in the chaos, a figure with gold-rimmed glasses watches with a slow smile spreading across his face. He is not upset, he is delighted. He starts saying he is really looking forward to it. He says he can't wait for the day when the people from the other 6 St. Martial universities see Lu Sheng. Our boy stands in the center of the silent hall with chi crackling faintly around him. His expression is completely calm, and he is already done with all of it. A red-haired warrior stands shell-shocked. He mutters that he hadn't even decided whether to step in yet, and it was already over. The crowd is dazed. The announcement lands hard. The warrior's conquest had failed. Standing in the center of it all, our boy Lu Sheng holds his position with a radiant energy pouring from the blade at his feet. The air around him crackles with the kind of quiet authority that needs no announcement. But here's where it gets funny. Someone in the crowd recognizes that red-haired guy had stood up earlier. The same familiar line from his original world slips out and eyes start locking onto him. He panics hard. He immediately starts denying everything and insists he never stood up and that he is still sitting right there in his seat. He nervously throws himself back down into his chair. The crowd watches in awkward silence. The examiner doesn't even bother dwelling on it. He just delivers one clean chop to the troublemakers still on the ground and tells everyone that the opportunity to prove themselves had been right in front of them and not a single one seized it. Dead silence follows. He wraps it up coldly and says when these people wake up, someone needs to make sure they understand there are to be no more scenes in front of him. Everyone nods furiously. Lu Sheng steps forward to the vice principal and wraps up his duty as freshman representative speaker. The vice principal beams with satisfaction and officially dismisses the crowd and sends the injured to the infirmary. Just like that, the 57th entrance ceremony of the 7th St. Martial University closes. And the internet absolutely loses its mind. Headlines start flooding in. Dragon Ascending Champion reveals his full strength. Freshman dominates the university by fighting 1 against 100 alone. The stats are unreal. A level 3 martial artist combined with a psychic comprehensive combat arts analysis score that breaks records. Lu Sheng is everywhere. Back in the dorm, our hero stares at the headlines with an almost philosophical frown. He starts wondering if he has really become that guy. He reflects quietly and admits to himself that lately he has leaned more and more towards solving problems through force. He thinks strength has a way of doing that. The more you have, the more natural it feels to use it. But buried beneath the self-reflection, a deeper realization is forming. There is a bigger reason his mindset has shifted, and it is rooted in something that has been building since his freshman days. Then the philosophy kicks in. He thinks being weak isn't a sin, but being weak and not knowing it is a mistake. Being both weak and annoying is just unforgivable. He figures violence can't solve everything, but it can certainly solve most things. He had already planned this. Reveal his true power just enough to earn faster access to the Fireseed Resource Library. He was meant to shine, and he knows it. As he settles into that mindset, something shifts in his body. The great sun image at the core of his martial will loosens ever so slightly. It is a sign that a breakthrough may be right on the horizon. With that clarity locked in, Lu Sheng moves. The combat sequence begins with swift, decisive movement. Lu Sheng closes the distance with explosive speed and blue-white lightning energy surges along his arms and frame. His opponent is fast and meets him charge for charge. But our boy presses forward with relentless momentum, trading blows in a flurry of electric-laced strikes. Each exchange sends arcs of lightning scattering outward, and the sheer force of the collision is visible in every shockwave between them. Then the opponent shifts gears. She activates Breath of the Wind and her body erupts into a burst of wind energy. Massive feathered wings unfurl behind her as she pivots into an aerial counterstance and redirects the momentum of the clash entirely. It is a clean technique switch designed to break rhythm and force the opponent onto the back foot. Lu Sheng doesn't flinch. He layers 3 abilities in rapid succession. First is Increase Psychic Power tenfold, which floods his body with amplified psychic energy and cranks his output to the ceiling. Then comes Divine Illumination of the Ring of Hell. A ring of dark light energy blooms around him, reinforcing his spiritual core against psychic interference. And finally, crystal visualization technique, which sharpens his perception and focus and makes the incoming attack patterns read in slow motion. The female combatant, who has white hair and is crackling with violet power, unleashes a massive psychic attack. She pours everything she has into the strike. She starts screaming and starts to deploy something big. A massive surge of ice power burst out from the arm he had lost. Lu Sheng was completely stunned by what he was seeing. While Lu Sheng is still in shock, she deploys Pierce, which is a concentrated linear thrust driving through her defenses with pinpoint lethality. The impact is devastating, and immediately after he activates Assimilate, it is a technique that doesn't just damage but absorbs. It pulls in the residual energy from the hit and converts it into fuel for himself. But she is not done. The ground splits open. A monstrous pillar of ice erupts from below. It is massive and cathedral tall, a jagged spire of pure crystallized energy that tears the surrounding landscape apart. Lu Sheng stares up at it from below with his jaw tight. He has never seen her use this move before. She hovers above with her aura flaring. According to Lu Sheng's read, this is her final form ability, a power that activates only when his health drops past a critical threshold. She releases it, Dominion Gaze. It is a technique that locks onto the target and attempts to impose complete suppression. Our hero plants his feet and calls on everything he has left. He declares that with the will of the Grand Master he commands the Blade Maelstrom. Unceasing rebirth. A phoenix tears free from the fire in his hands. It is blazing golden and fierce, with feathers of flame spreading wide as it launches forward and meets the Dominion Gaze head-on. Ice and fire collide in one catastrophic instant. Lu Sheng's eyes are blazing blue with his teeth gritted and every muscle locked in. Neither one is backing down. It is just two overwhelming forces pressed against each other at the absolute limit of what they can give. Our boy hits the dirt again, catching his breath. The pink-haired warrior standing over him delivers the cold verdict. He just can't beat her. But this isn't a simple loss. Instead of going for the finishing blow, the Frost Queen simply smiled, as if she was finally satisfied. Something extraordinary happens in that moment of defeat. A flood of her memories crashes into his mind. These are the memories of Zhao Lungsuen, and they are anything but ordinary. The scene pulls into her past. A young Zhao Lungsuen is brought before a silver-haired elder, who is a master of Ice River martial arts. The elder sees enough potential in her to take her as an inner disciple. When he asks what she wishes to learn, her answer is immediate. The spear. She says it is because he is the best spear fighter she has ever seen. The old master laughs with a hearty, genuine laugh. He wagers that a 19-year-old amateur reaching martial master level with the spear would already be extraordinary. Zhao Langshuan, in classic prodigy fashion, doesn't just meet that bar. She shatters it, but the memories carry pain too. One day she returns to find her teacher gone. He was killed by a madman. The messenger warns her the teacher left strict orders not to disturb her. Zhao Langshuan's reaction is ice cold and absolute. She says if her teacher is dead, then she shall die too. The tragedy is made worse by the bitter irony that her frost spirit sparrow had only just managed to materialize in Ice River. That was the breakthrough her teacher had been waiting to witness. Back in the present, our hero is still reeling from the sheer density of what he just absorbed. He gasps because he has never encountered memories this pure or this saturated with martial mastery. Zhao Langshuan's treasure trove of spear knowledge has fundamentally upgraded his abilities. His spear technique has vaulted forward, blasting through the command realm and landing squarely at the four-realm spear technique. He takes a moment to analyze what he now knows about her. He thinks Zhao Langshuan's memory is packed with ice crystals. She was a martial arts genius who reached level 7 cultivation while still at level 8 development. That already made her stronger than Shang Xuan ever was, and her spear techniques were even more powerful than Shang Xuan's own. Then he finds it. Buried at the core of her martial master's will, there is a radiant orb of crystallized intent. It is the remnants of her teacher's legacy. He reaches out and touches it. The vision unfolds and reveals a technique named Frost Sparrow's imprisoning spear. The memory insists that a single strike of this spear is capable of vanquishing a great martial master. The next day, deep in his dream realm, our boy gets analytical. He starts cross-referencing what he now knows. Li Luming is a level 10 martial artist and master of the previous Ice Window's Destruction of Gang Ke technique. Zhao Langshuan is level 9, and she also completed Destruction of Gang Zhou. He notices the imprisoning spear traces back to what appears to be a 5-seed project lineage. The more he examines the data, the more a realization crystallizes. He thinks it isn't raw personal experience that makes martial techniques powerful. The dream space itself is an immense and inexhaustible treasure vault. All he needs to do is absorb the right memories, just like Zhao Langshuan's. which means the question becomes who is next. His eyes drift to a name, Shi Linghe. He immediately shakes his head because it is too difficult. Shi Linghe sits at the very center of the base. The guy is a supreme fighter surrounded by what Lu Sheng can feel even from a distance. There are countless powerful presences that make him shudder. The gap is still too great. He has a long way to go. And then pain hits. A violent clash erupts inside his own martial master's will. Something is colliding, and something is destabilizing. But the answer arrives in a flash of insight. Buried in the crystal visualization of consciousness method, which is a technique he has been quietly developing there, is a form called the golden luminous stone form. He suddenly realizes this form can absorb the wills of martial masters and contain them. This isn't just a defensive tool, this is a lifesaver and a vessel. The implications hit him immediately. He thinks that if he fully constructs the golden luminous stone form, he could store not one but many martial master wills inside it. He begins sketching out the vision in his head. Complete martial arts across 10 distinct paths. His body starts to change. Each one mastered progressively and then fused into a single totality. He clenches his fist. The goal sharpens into something clear and absolute. 10 complete martial paths. Traverse them progressively and attain totality. Our boy is already famous on campus. Word of his fight has spread so fast that even seniors are talking about adding him to some kind of list. He brushes it off as nothing, but his companion is practically glowing with admiration. The guy asks what weapon Sheng plans to choose. The answer is easy: the spear. He says it is tougher than swords and more imposing and more manly. The decision is made, but before heading to the spear hall there is class to sit through, and this particular class carries weight. The lecture opens with a flashback that hits harder than any fight. Our hero walked into the classroom, but the looks everyone gave him weren't admiration. They were fear, especially from the red-haired guy, Huo Dong. He confesses internally that ever since a certain day, a feeling of despair and powerlessness has refused to leave him. Night after night, he dreams of being trapped under cold, dark water. He is sinking and paralyzed and unable to do anything. He keeps jolting awake over and over again. People assume what terrifies him is the ascending dragon position itself, but that is wrong. What truly terrifies him isn't the title, it is Lu Sheng. The professor walks in. Professor Shu is a specialist in monster studies and immediately the most interesting person in the room. She poses the question that defines the entire class. She asks why martial artists train with cold weapons instead of just using firearms. The answer she reveals is chilling. Humanity's firearms simply don't work reliably against monsters. For over 300 years, mankind has been fighting these creatures and still cannot explain why. Because monsters come from another world. People are shocked hearing that. There are rules governing this conflict, rules that have never been fully understood. And because of those rules, only martial arts can truly contend with what is coming. Professor Su doubles down and says it isn't humanity that chose martial arts. Martial arts chose humanity. She says to survive in this world invaded by monsters, cold weapon mastery is not optional. It is existential. A student pushes further and asks if monsters are governed by the rulers of another world, shouldn't invading our world be against the rules? Professor Su pauses and then gives an answer that silences the room. She says those monsters have already been here. The ones humanity fights now aren't the invaders at their full strength. They may have been here so long they have grown even stronger than their original forms. Our hero's jaw is tight. He is the only one in the room who already knows where this ends. The class wraps up and our boy sits with the weight of everything he knows from the future. With the 5-seed resource library even 300 years into the martial era, he calculates it will be impossible to deal with the monsters humanity currently faces. The teacher is a bit shocked, but that's the truth. There is no hope on the horizon at this rate. His internal conclusion is cold and clear. Hearing that, everyone else in the classroom are horrified because that's mean humanity can't win. Our boy thinks in 10,000 years humanity will be annihilated. All he can do right now is keep growing, keep strengthening himself, find a path one step at a time that leads humanity toward survival. Outside the classroom, the choice is confirmed. Spear Hall. His companion is hyped. They have heard Lu Sheng already claimed the spear path, and some bystanders start whispering that picking the same weapon as the strongest freshman is either bold or suicidal. Our boy doesn't flinch. They arrive at the spear training hall. The instructor waiting for them is immediately striking. Liu Ruqing is a fierce red-haired woman who teaches cold weapons for 1st through 3rd year students. She spots the 2 newcomers and gives them a simple test. She tells them to attack her with a spear. She says to show her their basics and show her their talent. Our hero clocks her immediately. She's a martial arts expert sitting at peak level 6 and radiating raw energy. Then a thought flashes in his head. He wonders if she is the same Liu Ruqing that Lu Sheng has been training under recently. The sparring session started with the teacher hurling a spear at Lu Sheng with incredible force, but our hero caught it cleanly, smoothly spinning it to absorb the impact before striking a perfect battle stance. The teacher looked genuinely surprised and a little impressed by this kid. She tells him not bad and says she won't hold back and to stay alert, and Lu Sheng is the first one to strike, a sweeping spear strike that floods the hall with blinding light. It is the full unrestrained technique of a martial master level. Even though Lu Sheng hasn't formally reached that level, the arc of his spear carried the unmistakable killing intent of someone standing at the very edge of it. A mere freshman who had enrolled just days ago was already forcing the teacher to face that kind of pressure. She feels something primal lock in his chest, a sense of impending death. Lu Sheng's spear thrust slammed straight at Lu Rucheng, creating a massive shockwave. But our boy didn't stop there. He kept chaining together relentless spear attacks, forcing the teacher onto the defensive. Cold sweat breaks out on her face as she stumbles back. Then, in a single moment of distraction, Lu Sheng knocked her spear flying into the air. The watching students can't believe what they are seeing. They start asking how there can be such fierce spearmanship. And then comes the moment that drops every jaw in the room. Professor Lu was easily defeated. She composes herself and offers a simple apology. Then she studies the freshman standing in front of her and says quietly that she thinks it could be inner disengagement stage. But then she corrects herself. She says he moved so effortlessly and so fluidly beyond that. She starts wondering if he is already at the command realm. She couldn't even last 3 moves before being disarmed. Her verdict is delivered with a wide, impressed smile. She tells him she didn't expect him to be this skilled in spear techniques at such a young age. She says he can already graduate from the cold weapon training room. The spectators are in full meltdown mode. Graduating on the first day of class, news rockets to the campus forums instantly. Our hero is characteristically unbothered. He thanks her for the advice and heads out. He notes internally that apart from this he has nothing else to say. Meanwhile, Lu Rucheng is left muttering to herself that in all her years of teaching spear techniques, she has never seen a monster like this. Compared to him, she feels like a complete amateur. His companion is practically vibrating with idol worship and declares him flat out a godlike character. The two part ways, with our boy heading straight to the credit mission center as Lu Rucheng recommended. His companion warns him to pack some supplies before any mission, just in case he wanders into some deep forest. Our boy barely acknowledges the concern. At the mission board, he scans the options. Everything available is standard freshman fare, fugitive capture missions in the afternoon and monster hunting in the evening. But our hero isn't looking for standard. He reaches past all of them and yanks a purple card off the board. AA rank. The mission center clerk goes pale, looked somewhat disdainful. He starts stammering that this mission is completely beyond a freshman's scope. He threatens to report him to the school if he is just messing around. He simply drops something onto the counter. A level 6 martial artist badge. The clerk's hand trembles and his voice drops. He asks if this is really his. Our boy's response is perfectly dry. He says why doesn't the clerk let him punch him, and then he can decide if it is real or not. The clerk immediately backtracks and is now shaking in a very different way. But there is still a wall. Missions above AA rank require school leadership approval and they can't be accepted on the spot. He asks for a student ID to start the process. Our boy casually mentions that his spear technique instructor Lu Rucheng just acknowledged his production and the clerk can verify with her directly. He offers to submit his student ID. The clerk looks it up. His eyes go wide. He starts stammering and asks if he is Lu Sheng. The pressure radiating off him hits the clerk hard. The guy is now visibly standing on thin ice. He promises to notify Lu Sheng the moment the review results come in and asks him to please keep both his ID and badge safe. Our boy walks out without another word. He thinks there was so much dilly-dallying. He figures he will check out the Marshall Saint Tower in the afternoon. Meanwhile, elsewhere on campus, another student is training. The guy is red-haired and proud and clearly talented. He is drawing compliments from peers who note he can integrate basic spear techniques unusually well. He soaks up the praise with zero humility and starts declaring that elemental talent might not be his strong suit, but cold weapons is where he is a natural. He says he can feel the flow of cold weapons in his very bones. He refuses to believe anyone on campus could be better than him. Then someone pulls up the campus forum. His expression dies. The post is plastered everywhere. The strongest monster ever. Graduated the cold weapon course in 20 minutes, breaking 7 records. Defeated a cold weapon instructor in 3 moves. Inner disengagement stage spearmanship. Commands realm in 20 moves. Analysis of Lu Sheng's spearmanship version 2.0. The red-haired guy stares at it. The words sink in slowly. He starts asking if Lu Sheng is even human. The enthusiastic redhead who has been tagging along since the start is flat on the floor with his face destroyed and tears streaming. He starts saying he wants to change majors. A student named Yi Xuan practices swordsmanship in his courtyard, and it turns out he is one of the two students appearing in the live stream Lu Sheng watches earlier. His sword skills are incredibly impressive, and right now he focuses more than ever, slicing through massive rocks like they are slime. A blonde girl, who seems to be his friend, stands nearby. She praises his technique and says that if he fights Xiaolan again, he wins easily this time. Meanwhile, buzz about Lu Sheng is spreading through another conversation nearby. She pulls out her phone and scrolls through the campus forum. The posts are about a freshman who graduated cold weapons training in one day and broke records and defeated an instructor in 3 moves. He reads carefully and starts calculating. He figures if the lowest level of cold weapon training is the inner disengagement stage, and the freshman had already surpassed that when he was disarmed, then his actual level must be even higher. His conclusion is that the freshman has already reached the command realm. He thinks such a person would be worth standing against the senior martial arts students. He decides he may meet him soon. After all, he is Lu Sheng. Back with our hero, he receives a gift. A representative approaches with a long spear case and announces this is a gift from Sha Pingnan, the Ascending Dragon gift. The weapon inside silences everyone nearby. It is the crystalline scarlet dragonfire spear. It is made of a rare flame element ore with a blade forged from pine crystal and infused with flame formation effects. A weapon of exceptional quality, and its combat power is estimated to boost his abilities by at least 30%. Our boy appreciates it, he really does. But he immediately spots the issue, and it is a critical one for someone operating at his level. This spear was sharpened using someone else's blood. He explains patiently that not just anyone can sharpen a martial weapon. Only through one's own insight and blood and one's own line can a weapon be truly nurtured into a heavenly tier instrument. He says using a weapon sharpened by another person's blood limits its ceiling. Because of this, he can't accept it as his primary weapon. But now he needs somewhere to test this spear and train his skills, so he goes to Marshall Saint Tower. But thousands of students standing outside waiting for their turns. He turns to the Marshall Saint Tower attendant nearby and asks when he could enter the tower. The attendant replied that since he was a student of the 7th Marshall Saint Academy, he already had priority access, but when he could actually enter still depended on the students currently inside, and right now, there were over 200 students in there. She also told him he was already pretty lucky. People outside the academy first had to register through the Martial Association and then wait in line. The wait could take weeks or even months. Hearing that, Lu Sheng could only sigh. He told her to call him whenever a spot opened up, then headed toward another tower instead. The result was the same at the other tower. Lu Sheng collapsed onto the ground in frustration and complained, wondering since when the 7th Martial Saint Academy had so many students. Wasn't this place only supposed to accept geniuses? He wants to leave, but the girl attendant stops him because someone just leave. She also clearly recognizes his name. She tells him his videos are all over the campus network already. He thanks her briefly and takes the room assignment. Training room 8 and the 4th room on the left. Then he heads in. She watches him go, genuinely curious. His strength is apparently off the charts even online. She starts wondering what level he will actually reach in his very first official training session inside the practice room. He has the crystalline scarlet dragonfire spear in hand and it is crackling with blue-white energy. He settles into his stance. The question is what level he can reach. Our boy steps into training room No. 8 and notes it looks similar to the body technique training room he used before. The system boots up with a clean announcement that the first stage of cold weapon training is about to begin. The room comes alive. Hearing that, he immediately readied his weapon and took his stance, his fighting spirit blazing. Orbs fly at him from every direction and he throws himself into it. His spear is flashing and his body is weaving and he cuts down everything that comes his way with fluid practiced precision. He clears the stage fast. Then the results screen hits. First stage training completion at 20%. He blinks because it is a failure notice. Then the fine print loads. During training, the use of any methods other than pure physical strength is strictly prohibited. Vital chi and elemental powers and weapons are all banned. He processes this and nods. He figures, of course, if he could just blast through everything with vital chi and weapons, there would be no point training at all. Pure physical strength only. He queues up again immediately. Round 2. This time he goes in bare with no energy and no technique boost, just raw physicality. He carves through the stage and walks out satisfied. He didn't expect to break any records with only pure physical strength. He notes the first round is now cleared. Then round 2 launches and something is immediately different. The iron beads from before are gone. In their place are wooden beads. He almost calls it the same until he catches himself. These beads move on air currents and are carried by wind pressure from a swinging sword or spear. Even before the weapon makes contact, the trajectory of these beads becomes unpredictable. This isn't in any martial arts manual he read in his previous life. He adjusts and starts reading the air patterns and adapting his technique in real time. He cuts through. Round 3 escalates further. Plastic balls. Round 4 is popcorn. And then feathers. Feathers hurled at a martial artist as a weapon challenge. He stares for half a second. He thinks, so that is how it is. The logic clicks for him. It is no longer just about controlling cold weapons. It is about controlling wind pressure itself so precisely that even a feather deflected by the air currents of a blade or spear can be predicted and handled. Not just spear technique, total mastery of the weapon's relationship with the air around it. Hours pass. He trains through all 5 stages without stopping. In that time, the connection between him and the crystalline scarlet dragonfire spear has deepened dramatically. A sense for the spear is beginning to take root and he can feel it. He reflects on what this training has done to him beyond the obvious. The room forced him to solve problems his memories and martial arts knowledge couldn't solve for him. He almost failed several times, but grinding through those failures has solidified the untapped potential within his body. His physical martial arts capability has reached a completely new level, and he can feel the second form of the perfect martial arts system beginning to stir. Then the system goes quiet. He waits, but no new stage loads. The screen reads that all 5 stages of training in this room have been completed. He stares at it for a moment. He thinks, well, that is as far as it goes then. He decides he will return every day and train until it is no longer effective, and then find something else. Outside, the attendant and another student are still waiting for a room to open. When our hero walks out, they snag training room 8 immediately with delight. They figure it is lucky timing, but when they step inside and survey the aftermath of whatever just happened in there, the reaction is instant. The entire room has been reduced to something that looks like a junkyard. There is debris and scattered wreckage and shredded training materials coating every surface. The student stares at the destruction around her feet, genuinely speechless. She starts asking if this is any different from a junkyard. The red-haired girl who stepped into training room 8 is still staring at the wreckage, popcorn and feathers and debris everywhere. Annoyed, she slammed her hand against the wall and accidentally pressed the cleaning button. A cleaning robot immediately appeared and started cleaning the room. She couldn't help wondering if our hero had been camping out in this room the whole time. She pulls up the system records and the data that loads stops her cold. Training level stage 5. Name Lu Sheng. Grade freshman. Progress 100% completion. She nearly loses her mind. In all 9 St. Martial universities, the highest any challenger has ever reached was stage 3. That realm is only accessible to those at the inner discernment stage. Stage 5 would mean the challenger is operating at command realm or higher. She tells herself she must have gone mad. That guy looked even younger than her. She checks again and the machine promptly breaks from the query. She stares at the closed door and genuinely wonders if she was just daydreaming because there is nothing left in the room right now. Meanwhile, our boy has already moved on. He drinks a vial of Golden Dragon Elixir post-training and notes with satisfaction that consuming it right after a session dramatically boosts absorption. He runs through the Stellar Body Refining Art, which is the second stage of the Immortal Golden Body, and feels the results immediately. Tiny previously dormant parts of his body are awakening and joining the cultivation process. At this rate, he calculates he will complete the second stage of the Immortal Golden Body in less than half his original estimate, possibly even before officially reaching Martial Master level. His daily routine from this point forward is a machine-like loop, morning practice of the Stellar Body Refining Art and the Great Sun Visualization Technique, then class with a focus on monster sciences, then afternoon queuing at the Martial Saint Tower, then the Cold Weapon Training Room for all 5 stages back-to-back, then evening sessions cycling through Stellar Body Refinement and Nature's Breathing Technique and Crystal Visualization Technique, and when his body finally gives out the dream space for battle training. 1 week later, Cold Weapon Training Stage 5 is completed again. In that single week, his vitality value has tripled. A casual strike can now generate more than 5 times its previous force. He reflects that without the Cold Weapon Training Room exposing every flaw in his foundation, he would never have known about the numerous micro-gaps and imperfections quietly embedded in his martial base. He thinks these are small problems now, but they would be catastrophic problems at level 7 or 8. He is glad he caught them early. But he hasn't been as invisible as he thought. The red-haired girl and her group have been quietly watching. They have been peeking from behind corners and tracking his exits from the training tower. She already posted the Stage 5 completion record online, but nobody believed her. Her account got flagged for arguing about it. Because of this, she storms back to prove it in person. The crowd that gathers sees the display board themselves. Cold Weapons Training Stage 5 fully completed. The reaction is pure chaos. Students who didn't even know 5 stages existed are losing it. They start asking about the popcorn and the feathers. They can't believe those are even things you can strike. Someone shouts to take photos and post them. The red-haired girl informs them flatly that she already did, and nobody believed it, and her account got banned. The crowd descends into disbelief and argument. But the ones who understand what Stage 5 actually means go quiet. Cold weapon proficiency at Stage 5 means command realm at minimum. Someone points out that even fighting opponents below martial master level, such a person would hold the undefeated title without question. They say forget the seniors leaderboard because even the top 10 of the 7 Saints leaderboard might not be a match for him. The group falls into stunned silence. Then someone croaks and asks what they even do with this information. He says it is an earth-shattering secret and they can't share it with anyone, and that is the most frustrating thing imaginable. The red-haired girl is calm now. She tells them to act like they know nothing. She says with Lu Sheng's style he won't be hiding his true strength for much longer. She gets a feeling burning in her chest that he is on the verge of making a very big move. She is right. Our hero's phone buzzes. The message reads that his AA rank mission has been approved, and due to urgency he should come to the mission center immediately. He reads it and pockets the phone. He thinks finally it is his turn after waiting a whole week. He notes that AA rank credit missions won't be available forever, and the approval process is slow enough that waiting any longer might mean losing the slot entirely. Decision made, he heads straight to the mission center. At the mission center desk, a different kind of energy is already present. The clerk reads through an application form and freezes. The 4th Saint Martial University, and the name on the form is Miao Rengxiang. The man standing at the counter is built like a wall and dark-eyed and radiating menace. He confirms it without flinching. Ranked 6th on the 7 Saints leaderboard, Miao Rengxiang. He is here to challenge the tower. Our boy sits alone at a riverside restaurant going through his mission briefing over a meal. The target is a den of malicious criminals, an organized group with serious muscle behind it. He reads through the details carefully, noting their structure and threat level. His internal assessment is cool and methodical. He thinks a criminal organization running at this scale means there is real danger involved, but that is precisely the point. He notices that there's still 2 of his teammates joining with him in this mission. He's kind of disappointed because he doesn't want anyone to brag him down. Outside in the dark, 2 teammates, Xu Fimeng and Feng Linyu, are already waiting, and one of them is not happy about it. The silver-haired woman paces with barely contained irritation. She starts muttering about his complete lack of time sense. Her companion points out it is almost midnight, and they would leave if Lu Sheng still didn't show up. The girl said she hated the smell of cigarettes, and the 2 of them argued like longtime teammates used to bickering with each other. As they kept chatting, they started complaining about Lu Sheng for being late. Since this was his first mission, they figured he was probably still inexperienced like a rookie. Good evening. He finally arrives. The silver-haired woman Xu Feimeng gets straight to business. She runs through the mission parameters. It is not a simple extraction. The target location is a dense building complex, which means tight corridors and multiple entry points and no clean angles. She is blunt about the stakes. She says this is a matter of life and death, and if he doesn't understand that going in he will be a liability. She finishes by saying she hopes he truly means what he says. He meets her eyes and tells her he understands. When they're out of the car, the guy said they need somewhere to hide first. The 3 of them reach their entry point, crouching on a rooftop above the target zone. Feng Lingyu notes that the enemy below isn't bothering to stay quiet. Our hero goes still. He activates something internal. A quiet pulse of perception spreads outward and reads the martial signatures concentrated in the area below. The picture that comes back is not clean. The girl distracts him because she doesn't know what the heck's Lu Sheng doing. He's kind of mad at her. He tells the 2 of them to go on ahead. He's going to teach them a lesson if this is not a mission. The girl simply scoffed and walked away. After that, the 2 of them climbed onto a building. The guy looked extremely nervous because there were a ton of martial artists inside, including one massive muscular man who looked insanely strong. A broad, heavy figure steps out of the darkness. Ma Guoyun. His tone is contemptuous. He tells them that the rules apply to everyone. He says just because they are operating under a 4-star family name doesn't mean they can waltz in and do whatever they want. He warns them off with the kind of confidence that comes from someone used to being the biggest threat in any room. But at the same time, back somewhere in the mission command chain, the situation is being re-evaluated with urgency. The mission has just been escalated to S-rank difficulty. The order goes out that face must be maintained, and this needs to be reported immediately. The night just got significantly more complicated. Zhu Feimeng and Feng Linyu are pinned down and surrounded. The enemy outfit turns out to be far larger and better organized than the mission briefing suggested. Their pursuers are gleeful about it. Someone in command gave them the opportunity to join up, yet they still chose to fight back. Now they will be used as hostages. The leader tells his man to relax. Hearing that, they start to run. He says once they seize these strategic material vehicles, everything the two have protected will belong to them anyway. He says an outfit at Martial Master rank with 8 grade birds of firepower is more than enough to raise the entire surrounding area. But they realize something and instantly stop. She mutters that their little brat forgot to bring himself to the party. She just hopes he is smart enough to turn back before anyone spots him, or he will be completely doomed. He is not turning back. He drops into the middle of it from nowhere. The big bald enforcer barely has time to blink before our boy is already in motion. Not giving him a chance to keep talking, Lu Sheng thrust his spear straight at him and took him down instantly. The enforcer screams his fury and charges, but it doesn't help. They gathered together and surrounded Lu Sheng. A blur of red lightning cuts through the group and 2 grade birds go down in a single pass. He goes down just as fast. Our boy stands in the aftermath with spear in hand. He says if he had known the AA rank mission would be this easy, he wouldn't have needed to be so careful. Then a wounded grunt drags himself up and starts screaming about revenge. Our hero's response is flat and utterly unbothered. He tells the guy he is dead anyway and to quit his yapping. He exhales. A quiet moment to himself. He thinks so, this is what it feels like to kill someone. He searches for the psychological weight he expected to find and notes with calm clarity that he isn't experiencing any turbulence. He reflects on why. Years of hunting monsters in the dream realm. Countless identities of ruthless, thoroughly evil people absorbed through their memories. These men were not innocent. He thinks justice may be delayed, but it will never be absent. He straightens and says, "Please accept the judgment of justice," 5 minutes earlier. The flashback explains how this all unraveled. The muscular man said that if they wanted a share, they should earn it with their own strength, not expect him to hand it over just because they asked. Ma Go-yun stood up and drove a punch straight into the muscular guy's stomach. He is holding court. He tells his assembled crew that he planned this operation and provided the resources and is the strongest person present. So he decides the cut. He says if anyone has a problem with that. The door is open. Nobody moves, everyone grins and agrees. A person say Brother Ma is right and ask why damage relationships over petty gains. Then the real reason surfaces. A red-haired criminal introduces himself as Ghost-Faced Vulture and drops his demand. He wants 30%. He says it is because he is the only one here capable of challenging a martial master. He also brings a talent in elemental control that nobody else can match. The guy was apparently once a martial arts prodigy before some dramatic collapse drove him down the path of a bandit. His cruelty even among fellow criminals is notorious. Ma Go-yun's pitch becomes clear. He is advancing toward martial master rank and needs the resources from seizing a full convoy of strategic material vehicles to fund that breakthrough. Ghost-Faced Vulture's combat ability is the insurance policy. The room agrees. The math works out for everyone except the people whose convoy is about to get hit. Then someone shouts that there is movement and cops are here. Ma Go-yun dismisses it without blinking. He says with this many fighters, a few police officers are nothing. Ghost-Faced Vulture agrees and adds with a smirk that it is actually perfect timing. He says he has been itching to blow off some steam. At that moment, Lu Sheng kicked the door open, and the kick slammed straight into the guy standing beside it, sending him flying across the room. Our boy steps into the center of the compound. The assembled fighters stare at the kid who just walked in alone after dismantling their outer guard. One of them sneers and says it is a brat who hasn't even finished growing. He figures they probably used him as bait to draw them out and whittle down their manpower through attrition. Our hero doesn't respond to the analysis. He raises 2 fingers. He tells them 2 minutes. Then he says those who want to survive may start running now. The gang doesn't take the 2-minute warning seriously. One of them sneers and says he is just a little brat who hasn't even grown out all his hair. He asks if the cops sent him as a last resort. He says no matter how you look at it, the kid is nothing more than a boy. Then red-haired woman moves in to end it. He doesn't get to. Our boy cuts him down mid-lunge with a precision that leaves the room speechless. A grade 6 martial artist stabbed to death in the blink of an eye. The crowd freezes. Someone notes visibly shaken that his movement technique isn't normal. There is something beyond standard training in those steps. Another fighter tries to cash in. They figures a martial master level weapon is worth a fortune, and if they can just bring this kid down and take it, they would be set for life. They charge in, but they goes down instantly in 2 strikes. The room collectively arrives at the same conclusion, a monster. He is dispatching martial master level opponents. He used Breath of the Wind to move at blinding speed, cutting down the others so fast that the remaining enemies were left terrified. Ghost-faced Vulture acted terrified and tried to run, but it was all just an act. Ghost-faced Vulture unleashes his elemental fire, a roaring wall of flame that he fully expects to overwhelm a quasi-martial master in one exchange. He watches our boy standing in the middle of it and starts smirking. He says not even dust is left of the kid now. The smoke clears. Our hero is still standing, completely unbothered. He asks if Ghost-faced Vulture calls this fire. Then he raises his finger and says this is true fire. The crystalline scarlet dragonfire spear ignites, real flame and a completely different category of heat. Ghost-faced Vulture's confidence shatters in an instant. The purple energy defensive formation he throws up in desperation isn't enough. The strike blows straight through it and Ghost-faced Vulture crashes hard. He is still alive but barely. Our boy stands over him and looks down. He asks if the guy has thought of how he wants to die. Meanwhile, the sound of the battle reaches Su Fei Meng and Feng Lin Yu from a distance. They decide to go for it and get ready to fight. They push into the compound. What they find inside stops them cold. Ma Guoyun is down. The entire outfit is dismantled. He finished all of that on his own. Her jaw dropped in shock. Our boy is walking toward them through the wreckage already done. She collapses into a sitting position on the ground with the tension draining out of her all at once. Her assessment comes out in a half-dazed mutter. She says she failed all her missions, but the 7th St. Martial University has recruited a real monster this time. Our hero barely acknowledges the comment. He checks his phone. A new message has already arrived. It is crisp and direct and carries unmistakable weight. Someone attack the tower. Lu Sheng steps out of a taxi and arrives back at 7th St. Martial University, fresh off a bounty mission in the outside world. His classmate rushes over to greet him, buzzing with energy and eager to hear every detail. He asks how the mission went and whether it was exciting and whether it was everything Lu Sheng hoped for. Lu Sheng tells him it was fine. He explains that all he needed to do was take out a couple of bandits, nothing out of the ordinary. But his classmate freezes on the spot. He repeats the word back in disbelief. Bandits, as in actual people. Lu Sheng confirms it without blinking. He explains that in the world of martial arts, killing isn't forbidden. The targets were vicious criminals with blood on their hands, and taking them out was part of the mission. His classmate processes this slowly and then completely loses composure. His eyes go wide with excitement. He decides on the spot that he wants to start taking on bounty missions too. He says he wants to hunt bad guys and rack up kills just like his brother. Our boy says nothing and lets him enjoy the fantasy. Meanwhile, nearby, a crowd of students is already buzzing about something happening at the 7th St. Martial Tower. Word spreads fast. Lin Zhe explains that the 7 Saints leaderboard is the most prestigious ranking system at the university. Unlike the regular seniors leaderboard, the 7 Saints leaderboard pulls together the strongest students from years 2 through 4, the ones who haven't yet graduated. It is the most authoritative power ranking in all of 7 St. Martial University. The names sitting at rank 1 and 2 are Chen Yixuan and Xiao Lan. They are widely considered the cream of the current generation, but someone in the crowd delivers a grim update. It looks like even Chen Yixuan might not be able to hold the tower this time. Another school is coming, and if 7th St. Martial University's top fighters can't defend the tower, the entire school becomes a laughingstock. To make things worse, the official challenge process requires months of paperwork and reviews and formal applications before any qualified challenger can be registered. Lu Sheng listens to all of this. Then he tells them he will defend the tower himself. He says he just needs to step in and challenge it. No waiting and no paperwork. Lin Zhe goes completely silent for one long second. Then he explodes. He starts saying this is huge news and that this changes everything. The scene shifts to the 7th St. Martial Tower. A large crowd is gathered outside, and the tension is thick. Students from the university are already dreading the outcome. A rival team from 4th St. Martial University has arrived confident and sharp. They are openly predicting that 7th St. will collapse under the pressure. The idea of losing face at their own school's entrance in front of the entire next generation of martial artists sits heavy in everyone's stomach. But then something on the tower ranking board changes. A voice cuts through the crowd. Someone says Chen Yixuan is out. He has failed. The board confirms it. Chen Yixuan, who is rank 1 on the entire seniors leaderboard, has been eliminated at floor 25. Xiao Lan sits below him. The gap between the school's best students and what the tower demands is now out in the open for everyone to see. The mood crashes. Students start muttering to each other that they knew this would happen. They knew they were going to be trampled. Suddenly, a wave of killing intent from behind told everyone to move aside. Lu Sheng had arrived. Some people were intimidated by the aura he gave off, while others talked trash behind our hero's back. Lu Sheng didn't care at all and walked straight into the tower. Inside, he met the same attendant from before. She recognized him and told him to do his best. Lu Sheng only gave a faint smile and said he was going to take the tower's #1 spot. Meanwhile, somewhere else, the red-haired girl was searching for someone with her group. Turns out she was looking for Lu Sheng, but she had no idea he had already entered the tower. She looked helpless, feeling that without our boy, the 7th Martial Saint Academy had no hope left. But then shocking news suddenly arrived. Someone in the group told her that Lu Sheng was already inside the tower. But then another name appears on the ranking board. It reads Lu Sheng with a status of ongoing. She takes a moment to process it. A freshman named Lu Sheng just entered the tower. She recognizes the name immediately. She grabs her companion and starts shaking with excitement. She tells them they have got this in the bag. Her companion looks confused and asks, isn't Lu Sheng just a stronger than average freshman? The girl tells him he wouldn't understand. She says this is a sense of pride that only exists for people who have been watching Lu Sheng from the beginning. A pride that can't be explained to outsiders. Inside, Lu Sheng realized it was a VR virtual reality setup, and it looked like he had to use it to enter the trial. He sat down, put on the VR-style entry helmet, and logged in. He materializes inside the virtual world of the Martial Saint Tower and takes in the space around him. The environment is rendered in dark blues and shadows. He notes the differences between this world and what he knows, but the structure and the feel and the logic of the space all strike him as deeply familiar. He realizes this world is just like the dream space. The same world where he has spent the past year fighting and grinding and eliminating wave after wave of enemies across 10,000 simulated years of future cultivation. He thinks to himself that if he doesn't smash every record this tower has ever set, he would be letting down every single enemy he has ever killed in that dream space. Every zombie and every trial and every brutal session all led here. He wonders what the task inside the tower actually is, since it won't be zombie killing like his usual grind. But he doesn't have to wonder long. A figure materializes in front of him wreathed in cool blue flame and moving with the calm ease of someone who has done this 1,000 times. A name floats above him. Mingyu Martial Saint Tan Zhongyu. Lu Sheng looks at him and concludes there is only one opponent waiting inside the Martial Saint Tower, and he has absolutely no problem with that. Inside the Martial Saint Tower, Lu Sheng stands across from his opponent. It is a simulated version of young Tan Zhongyu, the Mingyu Martial Saint, rendered at an earlier point in his life. The figure is wrapped in cool blue flame, with his posture relaxed as if this is nothing more than a routine exercise. He wastes no time. He charges in and launches the first exchange, testing the opponent's response. Fast and precise and measured. Lu Sheng takes a hit in the process but remains completely unscathed. He takes note of that. The simulation was pushed back by the wave of chi bursting from Lu Sheng's body, and then he counterattacked. With just one punch, he unleashed a devastating shockwave that completely shattered the Martial Saint simulation. But it's not fully destroyed. Something moved out of Lu Sheng's body. It regenerated and transformed to an older verse. In this state, the simulation moved faster and attacked harder. But it was still nothing compared to our boy. Lu Sheng leaped into the air and charged straight at the younger Martial Saint. The simulation was destroyed instantly, but it regenerated once again, this time as a more mature version. Through that first clash, Lu Sheng figures out the basic operating principle of the Martial Saint Tower. The simulated opponent isn't simply trying to defeat challengers, it is testing them. An enormous head appears within blue aura. Specifically, it deliberately avoids landing decisive blows at critical moments. It creates openings and sets traps specifically designed to probe the challenger's defensive instincts and their reaction time and how they perform under sustained pressure. The tower doesn't want to break its challengers, it wants to measure them completely. But once Lu Sheng understands the pattern the formula flips, he tells himself clearly that now that he has thought it through, he will do the same thing in reverse. He will break through the simulation's rhythm and keep driving forward until the tower has nothing left to throw at him. He pushes into the next level. Outside the tower, the watching crowd gets new information fast. Meanwhile, a challenger from the rival 4th St. Martial University has completed his own tower run. He clears 20 floor. The girl beside him takes the result quietly, but the lead student, who is a sharp-eyed young man in a bow tie, can barely contain his frustration. He says out loud what a disgrace it is. He says he expected more from the 7 Saints leaderboard. He expected to reach further. The girl tries to reassure him. They say Miao Ringxiong isn't that strong, and the 22nd floor is still a solid result for him. Someone announces that Lu Sheng is already on the 12th floor and still climbing. The students around the board go silent for a moment and then erupt. He is ascending at a speed nobody was prepared for. Someone points out that his current pace is not just fast, it is already surpassing what Shen Yuxuan managed in her full run. The girl who was cheering for Lu Sheng from the start is no longer cheering. She is just standing there stunned, watching the number tick upward. The rival school students stare at the board. The bowtie student's expression shifts. He asks what kind of speed that is. Nobody has a good answer. He is watching Lu Sheng's entry on the rankings board keep climbing. He asks the question again. He wants to know what kind of speed this is. Outside the 7th St. Martial Tower, the rankings board updates in real time, and the crowd watching it cannot believe what they are reading. Lu Sheng has already surpassed floor 25. The number keeps climbing. His entry reads ongoing. Xiao Lan from 7th St. Martial University refuses to accept it. He starts accusing the university of padding the scores and argues openly that the result is obviously fabricated. A woman nearby fires back with a pointed question. She asks if he is suggesting that the will of the martial saint himself is in on some conspiracy. Xiao Lan stumbles over his words. He insists he isn't blaming the martial saint but says the number has to be wrong. He keeps saying it has to be fake. Nobody around him agrees. The board updates again. A new record, floor 25 and then beyond. Still ongoing. The crowd erupts. Lu Sheng's classmate collapses to his knees on the spot, laughing and shouting that he knew it. He says he just knew it. This is Lu Sheng. This is exactly what Lu Sheng does. Around him, other students stare at the board with their mouths open, muttering that the freshman is an absolute god. Inside the tower, our boy is already thinking ahead. He acknowledges internally that Tan Zhongyu, even as a simulated younger version, is everything the legends say. He notes that a week ago, before he had fully mastered physical strength control down to its finest detail through cold weapon combat training, he would not have been able to beat even that version. He thinks the title of Martial Saint is no exaggeration, but then the floor changes. The psychic energy demands for the next level are on an entirely different scale. Lu Sheng registers the shift immediately. He calculates that for any other student at this university, the sheer energy requirements of this floor alone would completely drain them before the fight even began. In that case, the one waiting on this stage is not the younger version of Tan Zhongyu. The figure that materializes before him is older and broader. He carries a weight that fills the entire simulated space with pressure. White-haired and towering, and radiating the aura of someone who once stood at the absolute peak of an entire era. The simulation identifies him clearly. Martial Master Tan Zhongyu, the man who in his prime defeated the martial saint of his generation and fought nearly 42 martial masters across his career with staggering results. Lu Sheng stares up at him and says nothing. Tan Zhongyu tells him to try it. He challenges Lu Sheng to see whether his blade can cleave through his sun, or whether Lu Sheng gets turned to ash first. Our hero does not hesitate. He announces that today, with a 6th-level martial master's body and a 7th-level martial master's path, he is going to confront a genuine 9th-level martial master. He says, bring it on. The clash is immediate and catastrophic. Lu Sheng's opening slash lands with terrifying force. The simulation's vital chi fractures apart in a single strike, splitting apart under a clean blade. For one fraction of a second, even Tan Zhongyu's simulated form registers the blow as a genuine hit. Lu Sheng feels the pressure pouring back at him in response. The crushing weight of near death. Something inside him sharpens. He activated the key surrounding his body and managed to protect himself. He thinks to himself that facing an opponent this strong under this kind of pressure is exactly the condition he needs. He is on the edge of something, and he can feel it. He draws closer to the second form of the complete martial arts. He activates Grinding Realm Enlightenment, pushing the second form to the surface, and channeling the insight that only raw life or death confrontation can unlock. Tan Zhongyu responds in kind with sharp slashes powerful enough to slice solid rock into pieces with ease. He activates the stellar body refining art, condensing all of his vital chi to a single concentrated point. He compresses it until it is as dense and blinding as a star held in one palm. He calls the technique Stellar Grasp. Lu Sheng meets it head-on. He launches his answer, 10 suns in the same sky. The scene cuts to the vice principal's office. A staff member has just finished delivering a report. 8 6th-level martial artists, including 2 at the very pinnacle of elemental control, were wiped out single-handedly by Lu Sheng on an AA rank mission he accepted personally. Every engagement was a one-sided crushing defeat. The follow-up report includes an 8th-level martial master who sought out Lu Sheng specifically to express his thanks. The vice principal sits back in his chair and exhales. He thinks to himself that he had originally assumed Lu Sheng would keep a low profile for a while before making any kind of move. He had expected time before he needed to reckon with what this student actually was. But Lu Sheng keeps handing him surprises. With that level of combat power and that kind of raw talent, the vice principal can only think of one comparison. He thinks Lu Sheng is just like the martial saint of old. The vice principal decides he needs to report this immediately, but before he can take a single step, the door flies open. A staff member rushes in, barely breathing, and delivers the news. There is an emergency at the Martial Saint Tower. The vice principal waves it off because he assumes it is about the tower results being released. He tells the staff to handle the notification to Fourth Saints group themselves. He says he will refrain from going in person. The staff member cuts him off. He says it is Lu Sheng. Lu Sheng has broken the 7th Saint Martial Tower's all-time record. He is already on floor 26 and still climbing. The vice principal stares. Then he moves. Outside the tower, the ground shakes. A crushing pressure rolls across the entire area. It is dense and suffocating, and unmistakably the aura of a martial master. The students gathered outside go pale. Someone shouts that the pressure is terrifying. The vice principal and other martial saints from the university has arrived at the tower with his aura fully released. And there is only one reason: Lu Sheng. Outside the 7th Saint Martial Tower, the crowd has grown far beyond the usual audience. Not only has the vice principal arrived, but word reaches the gathered students that other vice principals have come as well. All of them are drawn by what the ranking board is showing them in real time. Lu Sheng is already on floor 27, and still climbing. The vice principals recite the tower's rules aloud, as if hearing them spoken out loud makes the situation feel more real. The Martial Saint Tower has 2 thresholds that matter. Someone who defeat the 23rd floor will be granted an audience with them, and those who break through floor 24 earn the right to be admitted to the school on a trial period basis. But those who break through floor 25 earn something far greater. They earn the right to be personally admitted by the martial saint and to inherit his martial arts directly. Lu Sheng has already blown past both thresholds. The board confirms it. He has cleared all 5 floors beyond the threshold, which means he is qualified as an official disciple candidate. At minimum, he is operating at the 5th level. Students in the crowd scramble to recalculate what that means for a freshman. Someone says it plainly: he is the strongest student in the entire history of 7th Saint Martial University. Not just the strongest freshman. The strongest student, full stop. Lindsay looked genuinely impressed by Lu Sheng. One of the guys there said Lu Sheng was just some nobody who suddenly appeared out of nowhere. But the red-haired girl nearby mentions she started posting about Lu Sheng's potential a long time ago, but nobody believed her back then. Someone else shrugs and says it doesn't matter now because his strength has made the argument for itself. Inside the tower, the fight is still ongoing. Our boy is battered and breathing hard with a thin line of blood at the corner of his mouth, but his eyes are fully alive. He admits internally that he had been blind to how strong the simulation truly was. He thinks to himself that martial arts without a genuine opponent kills the instincts, and that this tower and this fight is a rare and irreplaceable chance to temper himself into something sharper. His path to becoming a true martial master runs directly through this moment. The simulation looks at him and tells him he is incredibly strong. Then it says it is stronger. Lu Sheng does not argue, he fights. The exchange is brutal and blazing, with attacks pouring out at full output from both sides. Neither concedes a single inch. He notes that after a battle at this intensity, he can already feel something shifting inside him. He calculates that once his Great Sun manifestation reaches the 7th level, the path to formally attempting the 7th level of the immutable realm will open up completely. But then the simulation begins to dissipate. Lu Sheng stands in the settling energy, steadying himself and recovering his output slowly and methodically. A new figure materializes. The label reads Tan Zheng Yu at the Great Martial Master Realm. This is not the martial master version of the simulation. This is a step beyond that entirely, a rendering of Tan Zheng Yu at his absolute historical peak, the version that defined an era. Lu Sheng registers something else as well. The tower has not absorbed any of his spiritual power this time. It has been accumulating everything he has spent across every floor, and it is only now releasing that stored energy back into the field. The tower has been building toward this moment from the beginning. Our hero looks up at the simulation of the Great Martial Master and feels the full weight of what is in front of him. He smiles and says, "Bring it on. Let the final banquet begin." Outside, the ranking board ticks forward one last time. New record, number 1. Lu Sheng, floor 28 complete. The vice principal goes still. They're completely speechless about the record. Too many emotions on one person. Someone shouts that Lu Sheng is coming out. The entire gathered crowd surges toward the tower entrance, pushing and jostling. Everyone wants to see the moment with their own eyes. Students scramble to get a better angle. One person calls it historical out loud. The air in front of the tower entrance becomes a wall of anticipation. Then Miao Rengxiong, who climbed to the 22nd floor and hit number 2, walks out. He blinks at the size of the crowd and mutters to himself that all these people must have been stunned by his results. He thought everyone waiting outside was there to witness his big moment, but he was wrong. Right behind Rengxiang, Lu Sheng stepped forward with a calm expression, said "excuse me," and lightly shoved him aside. But the push was enough to make Rengxiang stumble to the ground. Rengxiang instantly got furious, but Lu Sheng simply told him he was in the way. The rival student is not done. He grabs Lu Sheng by the collar and explodes. He starts screaming and demanding to know if Lu Sheng has any idea who he is talking to. His voice carries across the entire crowd. Everyone watching goes quiet for a moment, curious what comes next. Lu Sheng looks at him. He asks completely flat whether the student thinks it is acceptable to block someone's path. Then he asks one more question. He wants to know who the hell the guy is. The answer arrives before the student can form a response. Lu Sheng moves. The exchange is over in a fraction of a second and the rival student hits the ground. His teammates rush over, calling out in a panic. They start asking if their boss is okay and calling him Brother King. Nobody gets an answer back that matters. Our boy walks away without looking back. The crowd absolutely loses it. Students from 7th Saint erupt all at once. They are shouting and laughing and grabbing each other. Someone announces it out loud for the whole plaza to hear. 7th Saint Martial University is now formally the king of martial arts among the schools. The cheering cascades across the entire gathered crowd. Lu Sheng's classmate is somewhere in the middle of it all, laughing until his face is red. He is watching his brother stroll away like nothing happened. A female staff member catches up to Lu Sheng immediately. She is professional and composed and informs him that the vice principal wishes to see him. She explains that she was asked to walk him there personally. The boy tells her it is fine because he already knows where to go. She watches him walk away and deflates entirely. A girl with her hair tied back forces her way through the crowd and locks onto him. The interaction starts chaotic and escalates further when her companion gets involved, creating a brief scene that draws even more eyes. Lu Sheng remains unmoved through all of it. Lu Sheng gives her a look. She tells him they were not in that kind of relationship, apparently needing to clarify something she expected to come up. She realizes she is in Lu Sheng's class and her expression crumbles slightly. The crowd watches them sort it out and moves on. At the vice principal's office, the vice principal sits across from Lu Sheng and lays out the assessment plainly. He says his performance was astonishing. Breaking the record of the Martial Saint Tower on the very first attempt as a freshman is something that has never happened. He says the records exist for a reason, and Lu Sheng has made every one of them irrelevant. He tells Lu Sheng that anyone who sets a new record in the tower earns standing that the school cannot ignore. Lu Sheng listens, then he tells the vice principal what he actually wants. He says if possible he would like to graduate as soon as he can. The vice principal goes quiet. He sits with that request for a long moment and then says he understands. He tells Lu Sheng to head back for now and promises to keep him updated. Our hero thanks him and leaves. The vice principal watches him go. Then he picks up his phone. The call connects and he tells the person on the other end that they should wait a little longer. The other person asks why. The vice principal looks out the window in the direction Lu Sheng walked. He answers with complete certainty. He says Lu Sheng's performance has only just begun. The aftermath of Lu Sheng's tower run spreads across campus faster than anyone expected. The 7th Saint Martial University campus popularity ranking ticks upward in real time, and Lu Sheng's position climbs with it. The comment sections underneath fill up instantly. Students are calling him the strongest freshman in the history of the school and the pride of the entire university. They say his fight compilations are worth studying frame by frame. Videos of his performance circulate everywhere. Senior girls are reportedly trying to track him down in person. The energy across the whole campus has shifted completely. In the crowd, students who had been feeling second-rate compared to other St. Martial universities for years are suddenly loud and proud. One student shouts that they can finally hold their heads high and that they no longer have to feel inferior to anyone. Another declares it feels like a dream he never wants to wake up from. Our boy stands in the middle of all of it with a drink in hand. He quietly notes that today's events must have looked completely ridiculous to an outside observer. He had not expected this many people to react this way. Yang Yuan nearby tells him not to worry about it. She says he is a busy person, and with achievements like his, it would be stranger if people did not react. After a short pause, she asks a little hesitantly whether she can still meet up with him in the future. Lu Sheng looks at her and asks why she would even need to ask that. She has no answer ready. He tells her these are all minor matters. Then he adds almost to himself that things get boring when there is no real competition. He finishes his drink and moves on. So we all know Lu Sheng is bad at love. At 4th St. Martial University, Miao Renxiong is attempting to process his feelings through food. He sits at a restaurant table surrounded by demolished plates and keeps ordering more. His jaw is tight and his knuckles are white. The other students around him are not helping. Someone repeats the story. They say Miao Renxiong, who is supposedly one of 4th Saint's strongest, got picked up by the neck and tossed like a small animal by a 7th Saint freshman. He reminded himself to stay calm and not let it ruin his mood. The details get embellished further with each retelling, until someone in the restaurant drops the worst version of all. They say Miao Renxiong had been so terrified he wet his pants. Miao Renxiong snaps. He stands up from his table and announces at full volume for everyone in the restaurant to hear that he did not wet his pants. He says it once, he says it again. He spells it out one word at a time with his face burning. He is absolutely losing the last shred of composure he had been holding on to. The entire restaurant goes completely silent around him. Into that silence, someone calls his name. He thought it was those guys again and threw a punch as a warning, but it was blocked with ease. Miao Renxiong recognizes him immediately and his expression collapses. Lu Sheng tells him calmly that this is the second time Miao Renxiong has failed to demonstrate basic manners. Then he informs him without any particular urgency that he is here to challenge the 4th Martial Tower. He asks if there are any objections. Miao Renxiong goes flying. The crowd watching outside erupts. 4th Saint students scramble to identify what they just saw, and then the name passes through the crowd. That is Lu Sheng. Students from 7th Saint who had tagged along raise their fists in the air immediately and start chanting that their fighting spirit is undefeatable. 4th Saint students are less enthusiastic. Someone calls for the top 10 fighters to be recalled immediately. Someone else points out that Miao Renxiong has clearly already lost his nerve and is no longer any use as a deterrent. But two figures are already stepping forward. A tall woman with purple hair and a weapon across her back makes her way to the front of the crowd. She says she wants to see for herself just how monstrous this freshman actually is. Behind her, a second senior fighter takes position. Between the two of them, they represent the upper tier of 4th Saint's ranked students. A significant escalation from anything Lu Sheng has faced at this school so far. The tension builds. Then the Martial Saint Tower's entry screen updates. The National Rankings Board refreshes, and Lu Sheng is already listed in first place at floor 28. The 4th Saint delegation stares at the number. The Tower Challenge has already concluded. 4th St. Martial University, across every metric that matters, has already been crushed. Far away at the 5th St. Martial University, a student council meeting is underway. A silver-haired council member addresses the room with full seriousness. He tells the assembled council that in the current batch of 7th Saint freshmen, there is someone who does not fit any normal framework. A monster. A freak. He says he is certain everyone in the room already knows the name. He begins laying out the details about the incident on the first day of school and the records broken and the seniors humiliated. But before he can finish, a council member named Jing Yu cuts him off and tells him to get to the point. She asks what they should actually do about it. The silver-haired student pauses. He gives a slow, helpless smile and says he honestly does not know what there is to do. He says Lu Sheng has broken the records of 2 towers in under half a day. His reputation as a demon king has already reached 5th Saint, and the council is only now catching up to the reality of what that means. Then the door opens. Every head in the room turns. Our hero stands in the entrance with electricity crackling faintly around him. He scans the room with calm blue eyes and takes in the frozen faces staring back at him. He asks one question entirely unbothered. He asks if he is not welcome here. Lu Sheng walks out of the 5th St. Martial Tower and takes stock of what the past 2 days have produced. In that span of time, he has moved through 2 more towers, creating shockwaves across the entire St. Martial University ranking system. More than just the tower records, his internal growth has accelerated sharply as well. His mental strength has climbed considerably and potentially reached level 6, And through the sustained pressure of back-to-back tower challenges, something fundamental in his martial arts has shifted. His complete martial arts has transitioned smoothly into its second form. He turns the sensation over in his mind and tries to put words to it. The second form concentrates power flowing through every part of the body simultaneously with no exclusive locked levels. No single channel dominating, and no ceiling restricting output. It even counteracts attack crystallization in real time, producing the sensation of being all-knowing and omnipresent during combat. After entering this form for the first time, he experienced what he can only describe as the feeling of ascending to godhood. A feeling so vast and complete that it briefly stripped away every sense of limitation he had ever carried. He wonders quietly whether he might one day truly become the god of martial arts. Lindsay crashes into him from the side before he can think further on it. The guy starts shouting congratulations at full volume. He then immediately asks whether Lu Sheng is planning to visit the 6th St. Martial University next. Before Lu Sheng can answer, his classmate announces that it is already arranged. Taxis are waiting. A convoy of 7th Saint students has formed behind him, apparently materialized from nowhere. All of them are ready to move. Our boy blinks at the procession. Lindsay grins and gestures forward like he is presenting a parade. The group arrives at 5th St. Martial University to a crowd that has already formed outside the tower entrance. Word travels faster than they do. Students press in from every side, craning for a view. Someone in the crowd announces it aloud. They say they are here to witness the birth of a dynasty. Lu Sheng finally arrived at the 5th Martial Saint University. The moment they saw him, the students instantly recognized who he was and started saying he had come to challenge the tower. The whole crowd went wild, cheering like they were seeing a celebrity. Rank 1 on the 5th Saint Seniors leaderboard, Shen Kong, steps out to meet Lu Sheng directly. He asks what brings him there. Lu Sheng tells him plainly that he is there to challenge the tower. Shen Kong gives him a look and then steps aside and tells him to follow. Half an hour later, the tower board updates. New record. Lu Sheng, floor 30, complete. The 5th Saint representative, watching from the side, stares at the number with the hollow expression of someone who has run out of reactions entirely. A montage of records spreads across the national ranking board. Tower after tower, all listing the same name and all showing floors that surpass anything achieved before. The next destination is 1st St. Martial University, the oldest and most prestigious of the 7 schools and the one carrying the heaviest reputation. Lu Sheng barely sets foot on the grounds before a figure steps into his path. A blue streak of light shot down from the top of the tower like a falling meteor, creating a massive cloud of smoke that covered the entire campus. And of course, it was a direct challenge aimed at Lu Sheng. He is Bai Hengchun, rank 2 on the 7 Saints leaderboard and this year's top graduate candidate, known as the Ascending Dragon Scholar. He stands with the measured calm of someone who is prepared for this encounter specifically. He acknowledges that Lu Sheng is free to challenge the tower in the name of fame, but he tells Lu Sheng that if he intends to step on 2nd Saint's face in the process, he will need to seek permission from the sword in his hand first. He releases his Martial Master's Will. Martial Master's Will is the condensed proof of a practitioner's martial arts philosophy made manifest. It is something most fighters spend a decade working toward. The fact that Bai Hengchun already carries it marks him as genuinely exceptional and a legitimate future martial master. The crowd starts murmuring that in 10 years Bai Hengchun will almost certainly break through to the martial master realm. Lu Sheng listens to all of this. Then he tells Bai Hengchun that he has heard about him, this year's top graduate and the Ascending Dragon Scholar. He adds coincidentally that he has held that title as well. Then he started speaking like an elder praising a junior. So this is what you call martial saint will? There's not even a hint of pressure behind it. At this age, a young martial saint like Heng Xuan being able to form martial will at all was already considered impressive. Heng Xuan got furious at the way Lu Sheng sounded like he was lecturing him. He coated his sword in ice and charged straight at our boy. Our hero looks at it and internally finds himself making a comparison. He thinks of someone else whose ice domain he has encountered before. Against that memory, Bai Hengchun's technique falls short, considerably short, and then Lu Sheng releases his own martial master's will. He answers with fire. The eruption is blinding, blazing gold and white and radiating outward with the intensity of 10 suns occupying the same point in space. Bai Hengchun's expression cracks completely. He stares at what he is seeing and cannot immediately process it. Bai Hengchun's ice domain does not hold. It does not slow down. It simply melts from the edges to the center completely and instantly as if it never existed. Bai Hengchun staggers back and stares at what just consumed his greatest technique. Lu Sheng walks toward him and delivers his verdict in the flattest possible tone. He tells Bai Hengchun that if they had been in the same graduating class, Bai Hengchun would have been second best. Nothing more. Bai Hengchun goes down. Our boy keeps walking. From the shadows of a nearby rooftop, a cloaked figure watches Lu Sheng's silhouette move away from the scene. The figure's glowing eyes track him without blinking. He thinks to himself that if this person becomes a martial master within 5 years, he will have the potential to become a martial saint. Word of what happened outside First St. Martial University spreads fast. 2 students discuss it in a back room, piecing together the details. They confirm that Lu Sheng did enter First Saint's tower without being stopped, and that Bai Hengchun, despite being their strongest ranked student with a fully formed martial master's will, failed to prevent him. One of them asks how many moves it took Lu Sheng to deal with Bai Hengchun. The answer is half a move. Lu Sheng never even launched an attack. He simply manifested his own martial will, and the sheer output of it melted Bai Hengchun's martial will completely before a single blow was exchanged. The student listening to this cannot process it immediately. He repeats the word back, melted, as in completely dissolved on contact. The other student confirms it without flinching. He adds that there is barely any meaningful difference between Bai Hengchun's strength and his own. That means there is no one currently positioned to stop Lu Sheng from doing whatever he wants. She says it quietly with the tone of someone accepting a reality they cannot change. Elsewhere, another figure mutters that if a certain someone had simply appeared a bit later, things might have gone differently. A companion tells him to stop dwelling on it. Then, with something closer to genuine conviction, she says the current Lu Sheng could very well become the Frank organization's next martial saint-level powerhouse. Newspaper headlines begin circulating across the city. Lu Sheng's name is printed across all of them. Ignoring everything else, Lu Sheng entered the dream space to review the information about himself. Our boy sits alone and pulls up his life record through AI Wise. He asks her to display the full file. She brings it up as a complete projection of the future he is walking toward, laid out in clean data. He scans through it and finds himself wondering whether simply cultivating through his own lifetime, without the dream space's compressed acceleration, would ever be enough to reach sainthood on its own. The file stated that Lu Sheng had a lifespan of 297 years and was a level 6 martial artist. His records read, Lu Sheng, a martial arts prodigy who broke records at all 7 Saint Martial Towers in the capital of the ancient Dragon Nation. The first person to reach the quasi-martial master realm. In the same year, he was crowned champion of the National Inter-University Martial Competition. He killed a martial master from Jidao Martial Hall, making his name famous throughout the capital. Then something else catches his eye. A notation buried in the record describes an incident where his future self killed someone, a martial master, under circumstances that seem to require the risk of offending a martial saint to carry out. Lu Sheng stares at that entry and cannot immediately find a logical reason for it. He continues searching and finds his paths. At 19, he became the 3rd disciple under martial saint Tan Zhongyu. At 32, his future self became a great martial master, attracting countless admirers. At 70, he ascended to martial saint, establishing the Holy Martial Hall and earning the title of the all-encompassing martial saint. Historical evaluation is 6 stars. Fireseed Resources Library authorization level is 6. Lu Sheng was thrilled because at last his future had changed and become even stronger. And then something suddenly caught his eye. He's shaking C marital status. The field reads spouses. That's the 3 girls that our boy met before. First one in the middle is Dong Xingxue, who is his lieutenant colonel in the prodigy training camp. On the left is his #1 friend in high school, Yang Yuan. On the right is Xian Lin, who is the disciple of Dong Xingxue. He closes that section immediately. He decides firmly that he will simply keep working hard. Whatever is in that field is not information he needs at this particular moment. He pulls up his future body cultivation techniques next. The records are dense with detailed breakdowns of specific martial body arts developed across decades of practice. He reads through the structure carefully and concludes that the foundational training methods have not been fully discovered for his current self yet. The second stage of his body cultivation remains incomplete. He notes that if he could access an unlimited continuous training environment, the kind of compressed high-intensity loop he has used before, the gap could be closed far faster. He moves on to the next entry. The nature's breathing technique. He reads the description and goes very still. The technique is defined as the ability of a martial master to project their willpower outward beyond the boundaries of their own body. It uses pure mental force to directly overwhelm and override another person's martial will. It is classified as a genius tier technique, one that requires a level of mental force so extraordinary that most practitioners would never develop it naturally within a single lifetime. Our hero sits with that for a long moment. He wonders whether the dream space was specifically designed with this in mind. He thinks about whether the reason the dream space perfectly sharpens his mental projection abilities is precisely because the spiritualization technique requires exactly this kind of endless high-intensity mental conditioning to develop. Hunting in the dream realm allows him to project his mental force outward in ways the real world never demands. He thinks it is not coincidence. It might be the entire point. He feels like he is touching the edge of a deep truth, but there is still a layer of fog he cannot see through clearly. Something connects all of it, he just cannot name it yet. He tells AI Wise to save the session and log out. The projection folds back into the interface. The screen dims. The AI stares forward into the quiet and lets the thought sit where it is, incomplete but closer than it was before. Lu Sheng sits alone and tries something new. He tries to create a projection using only his psychic power and with no physical output or martial force behind it at all. The attempt fails. He holds the result in his mind and figures out the problem pretty clearly. There is not enough psychic feedback yet. The spirit visualization technique has its foundation inside him, but projecting it outward is a lot more demanding than he first thought. For a technique of that level, he figures he needs to reach martial master rank first, and only then will his mental force be dense enough to generate the projection the right way. This is not something that can be forced in just a few days. He sets that goal aside for now. Today's objective is different, simpler. Harvesting. After a long stretch of combat training through the Martial Saint Tower, his proficiency in the spirit visualization technique has moved forward quite a bit. He can feel it inside him. A third fragment of the Martial Saint's will is taking shape and building up through every fight he has absorbed and processed. He figures that, as his ability keeps advancing, the technique might eventually need a Grand Martial Master's martial will to hit its next threshold. The targets he needs are no longer ordinary ones. He finds his mark right away. He says it out loud. This is the third will he has had his eye on. A massive zombie covered in muscles and battle scars from countless years was casually lifting a giant boulder like it weighed nothing. He stared at Lu Sheng as if challenging him. Lu Sheng deploys everything at once: the complete martial arts second form, the breath of the flame, and the void insight state. Then he charges in. The battle is immediate and hard. A flaming punch slammed into the zombie, sending it crashing into the wall. The result: half of its body was completely blown away. The target's defense is running under the influence of two separate martial wills at the same time, and it is something our boy has not run into at that kind of density before. He notes to himself that if the opponent were in his complete form, even a fully realized great martial master might not have been able to get through that defense. But the fight is not going in the opponent's favor. The young man pushes through the layers and breaks it down piece by piece until the will finally comes apart. As the will dissolves, a memory comes up, the life of the man it belonged to. His name is Shi Wei, and everyone who knows him calls him the dummy. In the flashback, a young Shi Wei kneels before his master and gets a verdict that most people would not recover from. His master tells him directly that his talent is far too low and that he will always be one step behind everyone else, and that he is simply not suited for martial arts. Shi Wei does not argue. He asks his master one question: if he works that one step harder than everyone else, will it be enough? His master has no answer. The flashback moves forward. Shi Wei gets rejected from a military guard position because his talent and ability fail to hit the minimum threshold. His mother finds out. He has joined a hunter's base instead, and that is a position that means direct engagement with monsters, and she begs him not to go. Shi Wei tells her not to worry. He promises to survive and come back. The hunters who work alongside him quickly form an opinion about him. He nearly gets himself killed recovering the body of someone who is already dead. He fights with his life on the line in situations where any reasonable person would have pulled back. The running joke on the hunting team is that he is one bad day away from dying inside a monster's stomach. But then someone raises a different question. Does he actually increase his level by doing all of that? The answer is yes, every single time. The guy fights at full output no matter the odds and takes on tasks nobody else will touch, and somehow walks out of situations he has no business surviving. Shi Wei himself arrives at a quiet conclusion through all of it. He needs to become stronger, stronger than he is right now. Strong enough that the people around him have a better chance of surviving just because he is there. The flashback arrives at a hospital corridor. Shi Wei stands outside a door and calls out for the doctor, and the doctor comes out and tells him congratulations. It is a girl. Both mother and daughter are fine. The young man stares at the bundle in the room beyond the door, and something in his expression settles into something permanent. He tells himself he needs to become stronger, strong enough to protect both of them. The memory moves faster after that. The man who was never supposed to make it in martial arts, and who started one step behind everyone else, and refused to stop running, ends up reaching Martial Master at the age of 72. In the year 11024, military base number 139 gets hit by a monster wave. Martial Master Shi Wei stands his ground with everything he has, and he never pulls back from his position, not even in death. Lu Sheng comes out of the absorbed will and sits with what he has just seen. He compares Shi Wei to the other wills he has come across. Compared to Tan Zhongyu, our boy here has always been a late bloomer, talent that never impressed anyone, and a path that looked like failure for most of his life. But he still makes it to Grand Martial Master in his old age, and even before the end comes, the fire is still burning in him. His will is built entirely around the act of protecting others. That is the thing that has outlasted his body and survived into the dream space. Lu Sheng realizes what that means. It is the same foundation his own martial arts will has been building toward ever since he first entered the dream realm. He finally puts words to it directly. The reason he does any of this is to protect others, to protect his family, to protect humanity's future, to protect everything that is precious to him. His eyes hold that thought, and they are steady and clear, and there is no doubt in them at all as the dream space settles around him.